Okay, just before we start, does anybody have a cold?
I finally don't have a cold.
Because here, like, James comes in, he has that tea cup, wants to boil some water, and we put it, and he's sitting the closest to me. This is not a good sign. We should get the ambulance. We should get the ambulance on speed dial now. It might get I might be the one that gets slaughtered by the end of this show.
I think me giving you hiccups is the worst.
Well,
worst there, Mike.
Does anybody know the number to 911?
Here we go.
The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Like I had a cough earlier in the week I got from home, but it's all gone now. Neocitrin does the job.
I've been having turmeric in my tea at work. That's been helping. So I think.
Well, I've had other things to deal with at work, which is why we haven't been here for like the better part of 2 months. So, good afternoon from the 6 Point Studio in the West End of Toronto. Mike Nicholas in the captain's chair. And on this, what is it? Oh, Saturday afternoon, December the 15th, 2018, probably and hopefully not the final episode we'll tape in 2018, but as it is, the Anime Roundtable has gathered for episode 6 of the Six Talk era. Hey, episode 6. James Austin sitting directly across from me, Kevin Ng in front of me, diagonally to my right, and Mohammed Shamarki on my immediate right, as the table now gathers for the first time in a couple months. And needless to say, a lot has happened in those 2 months, and we'll get to it as the next little bit goes. I get the feeling if you're going to have a drinking game for this episode, let me silence. First of all, take a shot now if you hear my watch. Let me silence that. Okay. No, that's not what I want to do. If you're going to have a drinking game, if all you listeners, and whichever ones there are out there, decide to have a drinking game, take a shot if you hear the following words in this episode. Layers, fragmentation, and dings on, and any of our smartwatches giving us alerts. Or any of our phones or smartwatches giving us alerts. Take a shot, and at the right thing, but call it a hunch. Somebody else will be calling 911 by the end of this episode. So where do we start this? Well, I know where I want to go because we sent the pre-production emails like over the last 24. Oh, well, yeah, my email. I should turn that off. Take a shot now, kids. Actually, I'll want to check that. We're going to come back to that, to the emails a bit, to that email, to some emails a bit later in the show.
Why that email?
Well, no, we'll talk about that in the second segment. What was I about to say?
Something layered.
Oh yeah, take a shot,
fragmentation.
Kids. Take a shot right there.
Fragmentation.
So, now they're really drunk.
So we're like. As I said, there's going to be a lot to talk about. So much has happened in the last few months, in the last 2 months, and we're still like the news that we brought out that we talked about last time we were here back in mid-October. That's still an evolving story, so we'll get to that in a sec, and then we can talk about stuff around Toronto. Actually, yesterday was my day off, and thank goodness I'm off of work myself for a couple weeks.
Nice.
So,
what are you doing?
Where did you go yesterday? I took my friend and I went to Oomomo, which is like the latest attempt at at the 100 yen shop in Toronto, which will probably be one of the.
I read about that today, actually.
Yeah, the which is a popular Japanese chain, from what I understand, or at least it has ties to it because it has ties to Daiso, or carries Daiso products, and that's the single most popular 100 yen brand in Japan.
You mean Miniso is not Japanese?
That's Chinese, I believe.
It is, yeah.
It's just one of No, I think this is the first real shot of a Japanese company making a real Japanese retailer making a shot in this area. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've had Uniqlo, we've had Muji make their attempts. We had Uncle Tetsu. Does anybody know what became? Has the Maid Cafe there reopened? Anybody know?
Not yet, from what I understand.
Will it involve maids?
I don't know.
Probably. This is where I'm gathering information for old Muhammad because I know he'll want to go.
The thing though is the cheesecake is the thing that's keeping them in business.
Well, isn't that the core product anyway?
Yes.
Remind me to show you this commercial that
Just
somebody
imagine
sent along.
if they set up the Maid Cafe at their location at Union Station. If they expanded that one, just imagine that.
Wait, there's a location at there's a Tetsu at
at Union Station.
It's a little...
right by the Via Rail.
It's a,
Yeah, it's like a little corner beside the ticket booth at the York Concourse.
I haven't been to Union Station in a little while because since the Jays suck,
I mean,
I haven't really had a chance to see a game.
They're rebuilding. They got rid of all their players, and
Which
now
is
they're just getting.
they're getting rid of everything.
32 million
you
to
can
get rid
watch-
of Tulowitzki.
You want?
I mean,
Well, no, there were other people that were bought out for more.
But
But
still,
if you want to
it's
watch,
just-
you can watch the Raptors.
it's like they were so close, and then they got greedy or something. Like they wouldn't want to pay Edwin's salary, or it's just come on,
Tulowitzki,
guys. And then
yeah.
it's just.
The thing though
So
is
close.
they were going into rebuilding and stuff like that. Guerrero is the future. Boba Fett is the future. So that's what we're looking forward to. It's like you want to look forward to the Jays.
Yeah.
You got to think the 80s and think the young guys, and hopefully it all pans out.
Oh yeah, I'll cross my fingers. So there's that. Okay, so going back to Omo, I want to talk some quick esports Toronto wise anyway, because you know what I'm talking when I say Toronto and esports, you probably know what I'm thinking already. Oomomo, okay, so Oomomo, as I said, first real attempt, and with the popularity of Dollarama, which really corners the market on Looney Toonies stores in this country.
Is there anything worth $1 in that store anymore?
No, but the brand.
The chocolate bars,
Yeah, right.
I think it is
but
just
they
the chocolate
basically
bars.
they're under.
them and Dollar Tree have raised the bar.
Yeah,
so to speak.
raise the bar. which to be fair, I mean, at least the price of chocolate bars in those stores actually aren't too bad compared to a lot of places.
It's almost incomprehensible how cheap they sell their chocolate bars for.
Yes, I'm trying that part. I'm trying to figure out.
It used
So
to be 69 cents for one there. I
yeah,
don't know
now
about
it's like
nowadays.
it's I think it's like it's like 69 or 75 or
yeah.
something to that.
Okay,
It's
that's still
somewhere-
good.
It's unbelievable.
It's which is
Must be buying
something
in
where
bulk.
Oh,
not
well,
even that, I
yeah,
think
it
something-
helps
some kind of-
it helps to buy in bulk. Anyway, so Oomomo went there. Let's run down the list of other at least other attempts at an Asian $1 store, because really calling them 100 yen shops would be maybe unfair to the actual 100 yen shops. So in this area, you have you have not really Best Shop, but Best Shop is more Best Shop, which is like in the Chinese mall, a lot of the Chinese plazas. That's more for cheaper like appliances and stuff, but it's sort of in the at least the feel is in the realm. One which was in Market Village. I think they have one other store. You have Ichiban. I forgot the full name. I'll look it up. You have Ichiban Living. That's the name of the place, which has had a store in Market Village as well. Has a 2-floor store in Pacific Mall. I think they have one or two other locations, which I don't know which. Doesn't come off the top of my head, but they're rather large. Oomomo is probably the big one right now. Will probably end up being the big one. Its store is pretty nice. Its first location in the Toronto area is about the size of a Best Buy.
Are we talking about Mojis?
No, Oomomo is like the 100 yen shop.
No, the one downtown.
Oh, and Muji. Well, Muji's something else. It's like Oomomo. You can probably say is a cross between Dollarama and Muji, I suppose.
Right. Muji's
So-
a little higher end.
Muji's fairly
Ever so
pricey,
slightly,
but
slightly, yeah.
yeah, they're a little like Muji. Admittedly, is pricey. They're not. Their products aren't bad.
No, that's
I actually like a lot of what I
their stationery
their
is pretty
stuff.
good.
They do the job.
Yeah, it does. It's okay. I mean, it's not that bad and kind of worthwhile at points.
It's like the Marie Kondo minimalistic
Exactly.
clothing store
Exactly.
with some accessories.
good reference. I like that. Good reference.
minimalistic.
Well done.
Not
Give-
enough food though.
Give the man points already. No, not enough food. Yeah, and Oomomo just like they also sell snacks and food, which frankly is probably overpriced compared to if you want to take a dive in an Asian supermarket. Like most Chinese supermarkets would have these for a little cheaper, for a lot of the food items there for a little cheaper. However, and this is a request from my best friend, if they had green tea arrow bars. Wait, you've tried one?
That might actually.
The little mini ones.
Where like my friend's been searching for those. He went to Washington this morning for a cousin's wedding, and he wanted and apparently it was a request from another cousin in there.
And he failed.
Well, he said he put it all on me because he knows I'm more likely to see it before he does, and just find it for him.
These are,
Where the hell did you find these?
We're talking mint arrows.
No,
right?
we're talking green tea arrows. Anybody can find mint arrows. That's not impressive. You're not impressing me by saying mint arrows. I mean,
Sorry.
I bought those
I
by
thought
the
green mint. My bad.
because
That would make me want to try an arrow bar again.
apparently they exist, and I mean, I Google it. There's pictures. Like, I mean, green tea Kit Kats we've known about for years. Different color Kit Kats we've known about for years, or different flavor Kit Kats, seasonal Kit Kats, etc. Who we talk about here? Well, you know, we actually have gone on a search for green tea arrow bars. Apparently they exist. He's, and Mohammed's Googling this now.
I can't believe
This reminds me of when I had a brand of chocolate called Whittaker's, and that shit is so good.
Yeah, there's
And
like
I scoured the city for them, and then couldn't find them. And then one day, my friend messages me, "Hey, I found it at this random convenience store on King and Strawn, around there. King and Shaw, I think it is." You bet your ass I bought like 3 or 4 of those.
Yes. so we're still looking, and well, if anybody has a beat on those in Toronto, let me know. At least I'm curious to see these, to see these and try these. Okay, bottom line on Oomomo, and we'll put up a link. There's plenty enough said. Really, we can't. There's no point in harping on it too much here.
Does it have to be green tea or could it be matcha?
That counts. That counts. Yeah, that matcha works.
Close enough. Huh?
Close enough. Yeah, because you know what we mean. Yes, I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures. It exists. How much? And we know the price, but apparently it's sold out from Amazon, so we don't know how much that is.
Have you tried TNT or any of those Asian grocery stores?
No, I haven't. But seriously, would it be? Well, I guess it's worth a try.
There's a realistic
Possibility,
possibility
yeah. There is
of
a
those being
possibility,
there.
Yeah, maybe on the drive-in back into Mississauga for myself later tonight when I go visit family. I'll go try. I'll maybe pop by, assuming TNT is still open. Okay, as I said, bottom line on Oomomo, not a bad place. Wouldn't mind seeing it again. I actually bought like a bunch of items and a handful of items, and it was under $10. I mean, you can get good items there. Good like tableware, reasonably priced cheap tableware, rice bowls, teacups, dipping cups for soba, chopsticks, obviously, stationery. Bought some fridge magnets. I mean, my bill is still the items I bought came down to was under $10. Not bad. I mean, it's 100 yen, or more likely in Canadian, $2 basically the equivalent of $2 when you put in, I guess, import chart, whatever it would cost to have brought them over, import or whatever.
Makes sense.
Some people thought, okay, maybe the items could probably be under $4, but I don't think you'll find one item in there that gets over the $5 threshold. I wouldn't think anyway. That all said, it's probably worth another visit. It helps this particular location that it's so close to the JCCC. This is on Don Mills, pretty close to the JCCC area. So location
Yep,
helps.
nowhere
Location helps. The friend I went with, she's been there already a handful of times. She told me, not a bad place. Worth a check if you are in the east. If you're in the quasi East End, in the 404 Don Valley Parkway area, in the East End, in the Toronto East End. So,
Terrible traffic.
if you can get through that.
Don Valley is shit.
Anyway, so there's that on the that was immediately on the mind, and I guess one way to start it. Okay. Well, we'll get to the other items later. At the heart of the issue, and big stuff to get started. I don't know at what point do we start? But I'm glad James is back around here, because we tried to make Kevin, Mo, and I last time. When we were here last time, the news had just broke concerning the split of Funimation and Crunchyroll. So here we go with the dive into the streaming services that we promised. And over the past 2 months, we wanted the news to settle, learn a little bit more, see how it would affect things, maybe take a good look at all possible streaming services. And then, as we were planning this episode last night, there were a couple new developments. So, and I have no clue exactly where to start the story. So, I mean, is there a suggestion where do we want to begin with this the latest take on the whole Funimation Crunchyroll schism?
Well, nothing lasts forever, as they say. So that's one way you could say it. But I guess there are other things at work too, that it was an agreement in principle. Obviously, there were some hard red lines, as we found out this week, with international expansion and stuff like that. And the fact that both of them were recently bought out by multinational corporations, Funimation with Sony Home Entertainment, and then Crunchyroll with AT&T. So you have those on the back burner, in that they're trying to, I guess, mold them into their own properties. And then it's like there have been things saying that some of, I guess, the employees on both sides, like, it wasn't all hunky-dory. It's like, we're getting anime out and stuff like that. There were, I guess, some tension from what some people have said, and that's normal when you're trying, like, two different cultures, like one from Texas and then one from California and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is just that it's interesting. When I was looking, when they first got together, it seemed like something you see normally in Japan, stuff like that, where it's two separate businesses agreeing to work together. And at that point, as we know, Netflix and Amazon were entering into the fray, and those ones have money to spend.
Yep.
And they still have money to spend, as we have seen the past few months for some of the acquisitions they have gotten.
Yeah, we'll get to Netflix, because the
but
money they
like,
have is open to
but
some
now,
debate.
of course, it's like with the takeovers in that, they can now use their parent companies. And as we've heard from this week about international expansion from Funimation's president, basically Sony said, we can help you do some of that heavy lifting. And Crunchyroll didn't want them to do that. Now, who knows? You never know who to believe in those things, because there's two sides to every story.
There's
right?
usually three.
Yeah.
Each of the two opposing sides and the actual truth.
And some of it, it's like we've already seen in streaming. And I can't remember if we talked about it before. We've talked about it in private, I know, Mike, about how it used to be like, we think of it from an English perspective, English fans, but Crunchyroll is way more than that. We've seen Portuguese, Brazilian, we've seen Latin America, we've seen French, we've seen Arabic. Yep. We've got all these different languages, that never really had that much pull, but now they're bringing them into the fold. And they're also doing dubs on Crunchyroll for those languages. Latin America, I think they're doing French and German, maybe.
Arabic,
even.
probably.
They're doing Portuguese, Brazilian, stuff like that. And none of that was on Funimation. When they made this deal, it was just the English dubs. And they wanted to do probably some of that other stuff, get some of those other dubs probably on their platform, or even those other languages, because, for example, Sentai and High Dive, they've started to add stuff. They've added Latin American Spanish. They've added Portuguese, Brazilian. They haven't added French, which is interesting, but I guess there's only so many people in Quebec, right? So, and it seems we're having a nice little rigmarole over there as we're talking about this.
Yeah, Mohammed's already destroying the furniture. Give me a sec. Give us a sec here.
Oh, man.
Okay, so
it's like he's trying to take down all of the studio with one...
just put it on and then sit on it, and then sit back in the chair.
But
Context, guys, context.
Like the one of the feet from the chair he's sitting on actually.
And that's not
off.
to say, since we're talking about international expansion, that Funimation hasn't.
I think that's it snapping back in place.
Hasn't been doing other stuff. Some of those English dubs they've started to put into other English regions, not just Canada, US, into UK. I think they've probably even gone into Australia and New Zealand, which is interesting because Madman and Anime Lab has been doing that for so long. So with this international expansion, some of those other smaller players from the other markets are probably going to be less relevant, but they have been since they've had to license through either Funimation or one of the American ones. They haven't been separate licenses like they were last decade.
Yeah, I mean, licenses are like there's a regional component that's always existed, but
now
sort
since
of changing
streaming,
a
they
bit.
want everything all in one, which makes sense. And the other thing is,
but we're getting there. That's going to be the interesting part.
And they're looking at is okay, everything except Japan. That's what Crunchyroll has done a lot of. And that makes sense for them because you don't have to go through so many contacts and so many people and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think of, I lost my train of thought, but the licenses, I'm thinking of the marketing. It's like the English market is your biggest one, but the other one that we've heard about recently in years is China and their streaming services because they've been paying the big bucks. And that's where the Japanese are making their money now from some of that. They've come around to streaming and stuff like that. It isn't just the merchandise, the music, and the Blu-rays, but that's still a component. And those are still going down sales-wise for the Blu-rays, and that used to be the bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I mean, okay, let me get back to to Japanese and streaming a bit later on. That's another story in and of itself, I suppose. Where to go with this? I mean, here I am, and from my own personal perspective, I still hold my own personal curiosity in doing another, furthering my own subscriptions into streaming services.
The interesting thing, though, is
So much fun.
Well, I know where I see Kevin's the look on Kevin's face because I know he doesn't care for this.
Question mark is
Not
also
one shit is given.
Yes.
The question mark is also on some things. It's like we were looking at the different subscriptions, but the interesting thing is how Crunchyroll is going to do it forward if it's going to be like Funimation. Because Funimation, once they had the physical edition out, all of the broadcast editions turned to home video editions. But a lot of the stuff on Crunchyroll, they do have some uncensored stuff, but some of them are still home video for some of their licenses on there.
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting to see if they change that up because that's a big question mark on them going forward.
That's right, the slight edits. So so essentially you see two versions of a episode, something like that, right?
And I think that happened when they I forget which dub it was. Because remember they were putting all those subs back onto Funny, and then some of the dubs were coming to Crunchyroll. And one of them they had up for a few days, and then they took it off, and it was because there was a broadcast. It was the broadcast version, not the home video, which had been released. So who knows whether they are going to go home video. Because they should have the materials, but as we know, they were sharing those materials among each other. And it's still going to be like stuff released in that deal from Funimation. Like it's still going to work the same because that deal was still in place. They signed all those contracts. It's not like they've broken up. Everything is a free for all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything's still going to be as normal. It's just what happens come, I'd say, spring, because we've heard from the president of Funimation that basically the next winter one, some of those contracts were already in place.
Basically the next season, basically the winter season of the anime. Yeah.
So spring, we'll see what happens. And we'll talk about one thing later where they have announced a few things to say, hey, we do have big titles coming up. And both of them are going to have to do that to compete against their competitors.
Yeah. So putting it into context, I start to like just to do my own research as a consumer. Crunchyroll, $6.95 a month for what would be their regular, their bread and butter subscription, I guess.
Yeah, which is premium, I believe. Yeah.
Premium, and then if you're willing to dig around for it, you can get it on a yearly subscription for $59.95, and I believe these are in U.S. funds.
Those are in U.S. Yes, U.S. dollars.
Funimation, much the same, $5.99. I think it's rated in Canadian actually too.
Yeah, we
per
had
month.
some rated in Canadian. We know they're raising prices, but we also knew that, what was it, like a few years ago, Crunchyroll changed how they were doing stuff in Canada, where if you just wanted to watch for free with the ads, right, you can only watch it for, I think, a few weeks. Then they just put it behind the paywall because we just don't have enough people to make the money on the ads. You know what I mean?
It's usually around 3 to 4 months on average. Because now, so personally, I'm watching 3 or 4 shows on Crunchyroll right now from older seasons. So I'm watching Cells at Work, I'm watching the latest Lupin the Third, and I'm watching Persona 5. And my friend and I are trying to make plans to hurry up and finish these shows because we have maybe 2 or 3 episodes left on each before the paywall goes up.
Before the Great Wall comes on you, right?
Yeah, the Great Wall of Canada, I guess.
The other annoying thing was that because our dollar went to shit, so they decided, oh, we won't raise the price, but in Canada, you don't get access to the back catalog if you're a free member. And that pissed me off. Because at the time, I wasn't watching anything new. I was exclusively watching older shows. And so that made me upset, I won't lie, as a moocher.
At least you're honest about that.
It turned me back into the old way of
I guess
going
it's
about
time
things.
to move
actually-
to the States, I guess. Is that your only...
Actually,
what was
Move
no,
to the
don't
States,
worry.
maybe?
VPNs, you know.
That's a very, very, very relevant point, which we'll actually come back to a bit later on.
But no, that's a fair point.
Yeah, Mo, you have a thought? Anything? A thought? You look like you want to say something.
No, I'm good.
Nothing else?
He's just angry at me for...
I don't know, man. It's like it's just.
But yeah, it's like, I forgot that. Yeah, it was that. I should have said the back catalog, but it's kind of like when you're saying it's like you're... Oh, man. But it's crazy. I'm not sure if they've done it for any other regions other than Canada. You would think that they likely have. You know what I mean? But we haven't heard about anything other than Canada.
In my selfish opinion, they should have just raised the price by $2 and then we still have access to the back catalog. But that's just me.
Well, seriously, you don't have anything to add.
Nope.
I mean, it's still very I'm trying to still wrap my head around it 2 months later. Mind you, I've had to wrap my head around a bunch of other stuff not related here. But it just feels like this is like, take a shot, kids. Fragmentation, here it comes. Because no, because this is just like a layer, take a shot, of things that are going on in the streaming business.
And we've been talking about the articles. We've been reading, and I'm sure others have been reading them too, about people going back to BitTorrent.
Yeah,
And it's like, who thought we'd be going back to that?
yeah, BitTorrent has made
Because remember when this all came about, they said, oh, don't worry, they'll come if you hit a certain bar. And now it's like, oh, everyone's in now.
Mm-hmm.
So
like this
now,
is one of the
it's
weird
going to be a
parts.
bloodbath.
Yeah, this is one of the weird parts. I mean, I'm of the belief that competition is good for everybody involved. But now, here's the competition is at its high, like it's higher than it's been in the past. But now now you have people who probably aren't willing to pay, who are spread too thin and will go about other means. And it isn't just the BitTorrent. It isn't just the underground means, the BitTorrent means. It's just
illegal streaming sites.
well, no, not even just illegal streaming sites. I mean, talking with I was talking with Squirrely and Ill Intent last night, and Ill Intent mentioned to me that in one of the that a possible unintended effect, and Squirrely will probably is more than entitled to correct me on this when I start going on this part of it. Another intended effect could be helping the physical media again too. Because it might be, if it's just one show, who's gonna have any interest in wanting to take out a service if the only thing they want to see is one show, and then another alternative is actually buying the series. We've come to this point, and we're at a point now where
because the shows aren't going to be there forever, and
we know that part. That's one part of the story.
Some of us knew that from the beginning, and we still had physical, but.
It's what Sean Kleckner mentioned on a recent episode of ANN Cast. Okay, maybe not that recent, but he was saying that because, exactly as you're saying, people are realizing, it might not always be on Netflix or Crunchyroll or Funimation. So if I really want this thing forever and ever,
the streaming contracts are
I'll
obviously
need to possess it.
Yeah, the
Like,
streaming
I need to own
contracts are
this.
probably different. It's like they have different renewals and stuff like that. But as we said, if we have the physical, as long as it's in good condition, we have it forever. And those Blu-rays, trust me, they're pretty sturdy compared to some of the other media we've seen, especially the earlier CDs.
You can even put like legal downloads.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't I just buy it?
Like an
iTunes or
like an iTunes, like an Ultraviolet.
Yeah, Funimation's been
Or
doing that for some of Crunchyroll's stuff.
An otherwise
like,
digital download, right? I mean, I have Deadpool and Frozen in my iTunes account now.
I have Baby Driver, Shaun of the Dead on my Google.
But
I've noticed
That is a fantastic movie.
Which one?
Baby Driver.
that is a good. But thinking about it, that's actually what Funimation has been doing. They still have the DVD Blu-ray combo packs, but recently this quarter they've had a lot of, like, some in Japan have not been doing DVD, they've just had Blu-ray. So you'll either have Blu-ray digital download or Blu-ray DVD and digital download. So they've been doing a lot of digital downloads along with your physical media to own, which is interesting. And they're the first ones doing that. But just like when they were doing the Blu-ray DVD sets way back when.
yeah. So, and my point with it all is physical media. Even the physical media, the cost for somebody to buy physical media isn't as bad as it used to be. It's still, it can still.
I'd say it's the race to the bottom is still there. Like, I see, even with our bad Canadian dollar, it's crazy how cheap it is to get these half cores or 13 episode sets and stuff like that. And then think about, for me, of course, early 2000s, 4 episodes, 5 episodes, 3 episodes of DVD for 8 DVD sets, 6 DVD sets.
I remember those
And then
days.
I know for you, even Mike, the tapes and stuff like that, even thinking back then, and you had to choose between sub and dub. And we still had an even worse Canadian dollar in those times. And you're like, and
65 cents.
and we look at it now and we're like, holy shit, this is a great deal. And other people that haven't been around, they're like, this is terrible. And it's like, no, you have to look at the whole picture.
Look at where we've been in the past. So
Obviously, it's not like mainstream media, but it's still way better than what it has been.
yes.
Oh, yes, it is.
So that's another element or layer. Glug glug.
The other
to the whole thing.
layer, we were talking about it earlier, was things that are in the American market, which aren't in the international markets. For example, us here in Canada, because they've been promoting a lot of VRV, which I guess Warner, AT&T are going to rename
right.
and stuff like that.
Hulu was in this, and
it's-
is a name that I've heard lately, and like,
And that's obviously American only. They were in Japan at one point, and I'm not sure if they're still there or not.
So I looked it up. Apparently, they're looking to break into Canada.
Hulu.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so then did the big networks sell off some of their pieces? Because remember, that's how it started out, was the big American networks all had a piece of the pie, you know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
think who had that whole thing where it was they were in partnerships with broadcasters to show episodes the very next day. Mm-hmm. So you wanted to watch the latest episode of The Office or something, you'd go to Hulu.com and you'd watch it there. But then every network was like, well, we could just have our own internal portals. So, you know, screw
Yeah,
you,
and
Hulu.
CBS is doing that, and CBS is probably the furthest along among the
all
Yeah,
networks,
most noteworthy
especially
network,
with
the full
content
networks.
with Star Trek and stuff like that being
Signed
their
Star Trek
big-
in.
Have you seen Discovery yet?
Yeah, no, I have. Ironically, I've been watching it on TV. That's where I was watching on Space.
Well, let's go back. I'm going to go back to. We'll talk Craven in a couple minutes too.
But yeah, VRV is interesting.
Big fan of Crave.
Getting back to that one, American only, but it has all these different streaming services bundled, so it's not like you're paying too much. Obviously, Funimation not part of it anymore, so they have High Dive, which is Sentai's thing. They have Boomerang, which is kind of like Teletoon Retro, Crunchyroll, and a few other things in there. But unfortunately, we don't have that option, and it's hard to say whether they could do those type of bundles in smaller markets like us.
So that's part of the whole confusion.
Are we really that small though?
Canada?
I mean,
I think given
China-
what you saw, what you talked about with Crunchyroll, trust me, we're small potatoes.
We're small
potatoes.
in many respects. Just ask China and Huawei. So but I mean, and as I said, this is a harbinger of now things to come, because we talk in the anime world, the talk here is always about Funimation and Crunchyroll, but we're going down the line now. This is happening. This is going to happen in a form. We're going to like the other big names when it comes to like the mainstream name when it comes to streaming is Disney and Netflix. And we're about to see a version of probably an even bigger version of a fragmentation happen sometime next year, sometime in 2019, when Disney starts its own service.
Yeah, and they'll probably tie it into their own TV network, Disney and all the others.
Without
So
a doubt. I mean, they're going to.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with sports and that too, with NFL, because that's been with them too, and they've actually went on different things. Like, it's weird that on Twitch every Thursday they've been doing the NFL game.
Oh, did
which
you-
is so. And
Yeah.
this Thursday was even
Ninja
more
was
bizarre
hosting.
with Ninja, like I guess to promote cross.
It's just I didn't know he was into football like that.
Yeah, cross streaming and stuff like that. But it's weird how they're all the different ones are kind of doing different experiments and different, not merging, but different.
Layering.
Yeah.
I guess layering. Yeah, we can say layering.
Layering,
Have
yeah.
another drink though.
Oh, there's another. Have another shot.
It's like sports and video
but
games.
we're having this, right? And people have there's been like Neil's given his thoughts, and just for reference, Neil's not here. I guess we have to regard Neil. Neil's dental issues are ongoing. What do you want to say?
No. It's the moment's passed.
Yeah, Neil's dental issues are ongoing. I hope he's probably still not going to hear this anytime soon. But but we're all wishing him well, because I do know what he's going through. He's getting a crown, and he's in the process of getting a crown. Or not a crown, but he's had a dental implant, and I've gone through the dental implant in the last couple of years myself. So I sort of know I actually do know what he's going through. It's not the most painful thing, but it's certainly quite uncomfortable. So his focus is there. We'll hear from him without a doubt later, like in future episodes. But his thought came with Netflix's own sustainability issues. Like, he put up an article from an investor, I believe. And if I find it, we'll put that in the
there's been a lot of
links. And this
speculation, but the problem is because they're a private company and Reed Nelson is the head of that company. It's like we only have so much information.
on top of like the
But
thing is,
still, to spend all that money, there has to be some veracity, as we say.
and on top of that, it sounds like at best Netflix is just scraping by when it comes to profit. because they're investing so much in it. And
that's what happens at the very beginning. We look at Sony in the early 90s and that they had to buy up those studios, make the things, and now
TriStar,
so
Columbia.
it's the long game. Realistically, it's the long game. That's what they're playing. And they're at the beginning of the road.
And yes, but the thing is, but the other side is, take all this in the streaming era, and I guess it's a different playing field, but the other side is business is a long game. You can't. There's a degree of uncertain. There's always going to be a degree of uncertainty anyway in business, generally speaking. So we just don't know how this is all going to evolve.
The question is, have they been overpaying for some of the different shows and the different regions they've went into, especially as we've talked about Japan before, and we'll talk about that later.
It's more of a case of, okay, so like Netflix is in potential to lose a slew of content all related to Disney and Marvel. They can't. Obviously, the cancellation of various Marvel shows over the last month or so,
and then the news came out that those shows have to remain on Netflix for 2 years after they're canceled. So in their original contract, it goes, if the show gets canceled, it has to stay with Netflix
on their service before
for 2 years. It's one of those non-competes if you get fired.
The non-compete clauses, which makes sense. So obviously we're all curious about the real story behind those cancellations. Who initiated
They
those?
just wanted to trigger that non-compete as fast as possible. Like Daredevil season 3 wasn't that great, but I mean, potential for a 4th season was there. They could have easily done.
Well, the writers said they were ready to go. The writers said they were ready to go, so it was just surprising for them.
And who would be the real beneficiary of it? Netflix or Netflix? Sure, but so who did it? Disney. Could Disney have done this, or really does it matter?
That's true.
In many ways, do you want to prop up your would-be competition too? So with the cancellation,
both. So.
But Disney's thinking long term, 5-10 years, right? So they know that now they have all this stuff. They're making these new content, these new stars and stuff for this platform. But that's done. What's next year? What's the year after? What's the year after? So they want that properties all in house.
Once again, we should have put the word long term.
I was going to say the thing that they also have that we know they've done again and again with VHS, with DVD, with Blu-rays, the Disney Vault. They're going to do the Disney Vault on streaming. Exactly. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah.
And it that can take them a long way then to build those original properties. As we said, they've bought Marvel, they've got Star Wars, so they've built up and they got a big catalog. So they can play the long game and burn money, probably even more so maybe than Netflix.
Warner Brothers, Universal, what about them?
It's tough.
Yeah, like it's hard to
We know
say.
CBS. CBS has something. They have their all access product, which isn't all that great. Which maybe in terms of content wise,
you know,
but it's not a bad idea.
It reminds me of Crave when they first started.
And we'll talk about Crave in a few minutes too, because that's evolved in the last
in the last
couple months.
Showtime and TMN and stuff like that.
If you're up here, if for anyone outside of Canada, and one of the biggest angsts here was the lack of availability of the streaming of the HBO Now streaming service. With HBO Now not being available in Canada and having it because all the rights were tied to Bell Media, and Bell Media seemed so content to say, "Oh, if you want HBO, you have to subscribe to a television service." Yep. That changed in the last month or so when they bundled it as part of the premium tier for their Crave TV service and rebranded that.
They rebranded the stations and said Crave.
The former, what used to be the Movie Network is now Crave, is now the Crave Network, or whatever you want to, whatever hybrid it is. It's Crave. So the original Crave streaming service is the low tier on that. But the high tier involves a stream and a stream, a live stream, and an on-demand stream of items on the Crave network, on the new Crave, on I guess the Crave television network, Crave, Showtime, HBO. That's the upper tier. That's $20 a month, which is about, I think, the price it would be for HBO Now in the States. I don't know. Somebody correct me on that.
I'm checking right now.
You're checking the current price of HBO Now? Okay. So that's sort of what's happened. say what you will, it doesn't on first blush to me. It says, okay, this may not be like that's tolerable, but obviously there's a lot of angst towards the big three telecom companies, Bell, Rogers, and to a lesser extent, TELUS, over these type of things when it comes to internet and phone and internet and cell phones, and to content and broadcast stuff. Like there's a lot of hate on for these companies, which, like, I mean, I mean,
say they haven't tried to break up the oligarchy, but it is what it is. And
yeah,
then there's the size factor.
and I get it. Like it's not necessarily unique because we see that in the States a lot.
Yeah,
too.
we hear people
sure
play about
sure.
AT&T
Especially
and
Verizon,
and,
ESPN buying
Comcast.
ESPN and Comcast, ESPN buying out all the Fox regional sports networks, I think. So this is not so I mean, we're just talking particulars in each country. So this is this thing with Crave is kind of intriguing, at least a new layer to me, because you know, I mean, my father has had a long time subscription, or my parents have had a long time subscription, so they watch HBO, and obviously we have access to the streaming services now. In the process of the rebrand, they have now increased access because they have what used to be the old Crave TV. So they're the streaming, the online exclusives that would have been through that, which include Star Trek, which includes Star Trek Discovery, actually, because Bell has the Canadian rights to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, through space.
Mm-hmm. So and then, you know, original television shows, CTV shows. I mean, past backlog seasons of Big Bang Theory and Blue Bloods are part of that. Are part of Crave as well. You found out? You found out?
The price of Crave?
No, the price of HBO Now.
But yeah, no, they had all the shows. That's why, like, Rogers and Shaw tried their fight with Show Me and stuff like that. But it just did.
$14.99 American.
$14.99?
But $14.99
American.
American. So that's comparable. So we're talking at least a comparable price. This is not to defend them. It's just making it's just something.
No, like they pretty
noticed.
much have it locked down. They have most of the library people want and stuff like that, and they're adding those top tier shows that people want. And you don't have to get them if you don't want to.
We're talking about Crave, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all on Crave.
$20 a month, you know, you get all that.
Because once Show Me and that died, there's nothing left.
I mean, I feel like just with Game of Thrones alone.
Well, that's going to be finishing up next year, as we know.
Yeah, and
end of April, I guess.
Pretty sure that's not leaving the HBO streaming services anytime soon. So
Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
No, it's on Crave.
It's on Crave, but like it's an HBO property,
Well,
right?
True.
They're going to make their money.
the topic
Probably
of-
on the Blu-rays and that at the end
On
of
the
the year. Everyone will just
on the
get it
topic
in the stocking stuff.
on the topic of things that leaving streaming services, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the whole thing. So you know, there's that worry about sustainability for Netflix, and so obviously they have to be more creative with the stuff they can procure. Hence, maybe the deeper dive into East Asian shows, Korean dramas, Japanese dramas, reality shows. The agreement they had with Fuji Network, since us seeing something like Terrace House or Shinya Shokudo.
Yeah, we've seen that. They've still been at it with Netflix and that expanding in different areas and going to different countries and that. But other ones have taken a different type. Because remember, Amazon, they got rid of all the executives there at Prime. And now they took all that back, like the Bollywood one and then Anime Strike were first on the chopping block. And that they still have some of that program because of contracts like with Noitamina and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see how much that'll go. Like, maybe Crunchyroll, for how big and how successful it's been, has been one of those blips. You know what I mean? For a niche product being that successful, because their numbers on subscribers and paying subscribers is impressive, very impressive for a niche product. You know what I mean? Compared to they're miles ahead of the competition as a niche product. You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, which has me wondering, can they maintain that with all that's happened?
It really depends on what they're paying. We talked about Netflix, and we'll probably talk about it again with the money they've put into Japan, stuff like that. You have Terrace House, you have the anime and stuff like that, and all the big studios like IG, it's like Kyoto Animation, Bones, all of them, their recent ones have all went to Netflix because they can actually get the money to make their creative vision. They don't have to compromise for maybe a TV run and then go back and do the Blu-ray and stuff like that.
Well,
and they also can get that money up front. They can have a good wage, which has been an ongoing thing continuously, and they can make the vision, the product they want the first time. They don't have to continually
Vision's a
go
key
back.
thing. Vision's a key thing. At least in
And some
when
of
I
it
go
is
back to the squirrely and ill intent conversation I had last night, it's more of a like this is one of those interesting differences I'm told about doing things in Asian movies and Hollywood movies is the amount of creative control ultimately given on all fronts concerning the Asian side. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's all funnel, whereas all control is funneled through one person, probably the producer or the studio in the West.
Yeah,
so,
but it's through the guy they have, and I forget his name, the guy who heads Netflix Japan, but he's the one as the point man there for them, and then they just write the check, so to speak.
And really just leave it at that. As long, and maybe it's best that way because you still have to keep your subscribers. And if it's still good, compelling programming always helps. It's always your best. You're always your best advertisement. Doesn't really, like, I mean, yes, a clever trailer will make the Samurai Showdown animated movie always look good, no matter how bad it really actually was. I want those $20, $20 American dollars back for the VHS, by the way.
Which version, subtitled or dubbed?
Anyway. But when it comes down to it, I get it. Trailers can make anything look real good, but you have to you still have to bring the goods to keep it going.
And the thing though with this is, as we know, is there are so many more things out there on the streaming platforms, especially something like a Netflix, that if you do not deliver, they're just going to go to the next thing in their queue or the next thing that's in the trending or in the news section or wherever section they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So there's so many things that can get buried underneath as
and easily,
and that's something we'll talk about later, because that's one of the things they were talking about this week about one of their recent acquisitions. Mm-hmm. And it's that thing of, it might get buried underneath there, but the question is how mainstream, like they say mainstream audience, but how many people are actually on there on Netflix? That's going to be the question, how much they maintain, because we've talked about Disney. I think they could be the big dog. They have the capabilities, especially with the mainstream audience. Mm-hmm. And but it's the long term, really. We have to wait and see how it shakes out. We've already seen how that happened in Canada, as we talked about before, how Crave and Bell Media had all the shows, so they were able to just take
scrape by
Rogers and Shaw to the woodshed.
Over the Canadian services.
Yeah.
Do you remember Rogers? Rogers had like a Crave.
Show Me.
Yeah, it was Show Me. We were talking about Show Me. And they were on...
For about roughly a year.
Yeah, it was about that. It wasn't that long.
Was it that bad? It seemed fine to me.
It didn't have enough content.
The content was the issue. That's why I said, they had...
The interface, I didn't think badly.
The bad interface.
I mean, the interface, it's just that I wanted to give it a chance.
Yep. It was boxy and weird and things.
I didn't try it, so I'm not sure.
I wanted to give it a chance. It came bundled
with Rogers. If you had any Rogers service, it came bundled in
for a year, and then
I'm guessing they're giving something else to people now. I guess.
Yes, Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
Well, as I said, this is I don't know. I mean, here we are, and I guess one other name I want to throw in all of this before we end off the current version of this story, because the other service I'd always considered was Viki, Rakuten's service, which covers mainly K dramas, Korean stuff, which has me puzzled, if only because Rakuten's a Japanese company. How has, like you mentioned, Japan has started to get a little bit more into the streaming stuff. Why not Rakuten? I mean, this is the one that puzzles me. Maybe because it was only recently bought out. Like Viki's been out for some years. It's been out for a decade, more than a decade, I think. And then Rakuten only bought them out 4 years ago, I believe. So it's still very much a Korean, geared towards Korean and Korean to a lesser degree, Chinese and Taiwanese stuff. but not really Japanese stuff.
And then you said there is the interesting thing where it's more about the raws, and then they allow the fans to then translate said shows. So that's a different.
That's a different model altogether.
Yeah, it's an interesting model. I'm not sure if it'll work. Like they're still at it. They've been trying for.
What is it? They're having their sale for the standard pass, their annual Christmas time sale for the standard pass, $30 a year for $30 for the entire year. But yeah, it's a different model because all they get is the rights to the raws. And then fans make the translations and make those available. My sister was a fan in the past. I consider it. Maybe.
Is this free labor that they're getting?
That's the problem. That's the issue. And that's part of the. And that's
like how ANN has such a comprehensive encyclopedia because
it's
fan contributed.
Wiki. Remember this much: Wiki combines the words video and wiki. That was the idea with the name, right? But that's one part of it. So, I mean, there's stuff from Japan I would love to see. I'd love to watch that. Years ago, I saw a fan sub of their take on the live action GTO and the live action Hana Yori Dango and all of that.
And those ones had legitimate releases. I remember here.
Well, really?
DVD. I thought,
the GTO
Was it
live
the
action,
movie?
just the
Was it
GTO
just the
live
movie?
action movie. Only that.
It was
that
just the movie.
That was
and
Media
Haryango
Blasters.
Dango,
Hanagori Dango never.
I thought it did.
Might have been.
I was thinking Viz.
There's a Korean.
There
I
might have
think
been a
there's Korean and
version
Taiwanese
of it,
version,
but there was a version of it that came over.
So,
But it could be you're right. A different version.
but there's never really been that type of stuff when it comes to Japanese dramas, and there's a degree of hesitancy, I suppose.
Well,
which in many ways that we sort of knew about. Go ahead.
Well, the Japanese have never been known to be very adaptive when it comes to trying new things. They've always been very risk averse.
True.
For a lot of the things they can do, right?
And aren't a lot of these companies owned by the Yakuza anyway?
Like 90%.
It's, but that's another version of those oligarchs, I suppose.
And how many of these shows have a Johnny's member in them? Because they always ask for ridiculous sums of money for these things, and they always have these asinine rules about photography and we can't have our actors' faces on promotional posters. I just think of that FMA live action example. Ridiculous.
As I said, it's one of those things, but things are evolving.
Makes me wonder how Funimation even got that live action Space Battleship Yamato movie.
Who knows?
It might have been because of, was it 2022 or something like that? Of that one Yamato one, I think they got too.
Could be.
Might have been through that.
I don't know. It makes you
Because
wonder.
they got something. No, Discotheque is the original stuff. So.
Oh, and that reminds me. So when the Funimation purge happened on Crunchyroll, Space Battleship Yamato 2099 is no longer part of the service, and it's not going to go on Funimation now.
Really?
Where's that heading for? Is it
Back
Hulu?
into the abyss.
I thought you were going to say back into Hulu. Who knows?
Nope, back into the abyss.
That's odd. That's an interesting one.
That is quite odd.
Because Voyager Entertainment, that's why.
Oh.
That's my suspicion.
Anything else to add? No, nothing.
Fuck you,
Elaboration?
Voyager. Fuck you. That show, 2099, is one of the best readaptations of an old anime property. It's fantastic. More people should be watching that show. It only took, 3 years? But it finally went on Crunchyroll because Funimation somehow nabbed the rights for that. And I was so happy that it was being shown to a wider audience, as it should have been the whole time. And now it's not on there anymore because of this fucking dispute.
Drops the phone. Okay. I think that's, as I said, this is... Oh, what?
2202 got cut off as well because of that. You're right. And now I don't have a legal way of watching that show. Which means I have to bootleg it now.
BitTorrent. Okay.
Oh.
as I said, this is going to be
But it's,
one
as
of
we
those
said,
things.
the ever-evolving
It's-
streaming universe and stuff like that. And as the little guys are being picked up by the bigger fish and stuff like that, they'll probably want their own control and put their own resources and stuff like that. So it was never going to be forever.
No. This is going to be a fascinating story as 2019 comes along. I mean, I like the whole streaming industry. Forget
Right.
just Funimation and Crunchyroll. It's just generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'm more curious just to see how it ends up in Canada too.
And we're going to probably lag behind the Americans on that too.
I
because
believe
you know,
that.
you know what I mean?
I
So
believe
it's going to be a long game for us, which is going to be disappointing. So
We
you're
usually
going to have
do.
so many people go to BitTorrent and piracy again, especially in the
Only
international
30.
market.
There's only what? How many of us? 30 million?
Yep, thereabouts.
36,
Something to that
30,
effect?
36.
30,
yeah.
36? Yeah, that ain't. It's a lot.
and only
though.
like what, a tenth of us use the internet.
Something like that, yeah.
Obviously not. I'm being
I think maybe you're overstating it, but
Let's put it this way: how many people have good internet? That's the real
that's
question.
probably that's probably the more relevant thing to ask. Okay, let's take the break. We're gonna load the gun, and we're gonna load the gun and shoot the bullets. Oops, that didn't sound right. Well, the bullets are coming up. We're gonna talk about. There's a bunch of little things we do want to talk about that have come up over the last little while, the last couple months, and they might be worth a mention here. So let's take the break. Back with the bullets segment for the first time in this, officially for the first time in the version 2 era. Back with more. It's the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network. Here we go. The podcast now continues on this now becoming Saturday evening, December 15th, 2018. Online via the Six Talk Podcast Network. I was about to say in front of a live audience. Online via the Six Talk Podcast Network, official podcast, Anime North. Nicholas Austin, Ing, and Shamarky around the table with you in conversation. Okay, so since we were on the topic of Toronto and sports, just quickly, can we spare a thought for the Overwatch team just for a couple seconds before we get into the bullets?
Sure.
Esports. Okay.
Yes, Toronto Defiant. They announced their roster. They announced their schedule. Is there something we want to mention concerning them? Will this be an interesting thing? I mean, they snagged the head of the Canadian Olympic Committee to be the team's corporate head.
Interesting.
Which I guess says something.
But some of them, I guess, are trying to stand out because isn't Paris like getting a lot of European players and
Yes,
stuff
they
like
are.
that? And so they went a different route compared to other things, just like how Shanghai had all the different Chinese players and stuff
And
like that.
sucked. Now it's almost exclusively a Korean players aside from like maybe one or two people on Shanghai. The other Chinese teams have way more Chinese players, I think. So
Well, we'll see how the tides turn, right? I'm not sure what the look is for Toronto.
they had a good coach. They have a good coach because it's the former coach of the London Spitfire. Bishop used to run the London Spitfire for half a season, and obviously they ultimately won it all. He left them because he revealed there was personal issues. He went to attend to his mother who had suffered from cancer halfway through the season. So he stepped down as London's coach. He's back. He's put up a team that is a little ragtag, but so was London in some ways. Some ways, not totally. But remember, London won it all, and Bishop was the guy who was one of the guys who got him through, who started them on that path. They've taken, I think, two players. I forgot their names, but one of them I know was on Boston. I think the more noteworthy of the two, if you're going to pick a Canadian team that might be more noteworthy, it's probably Vancouver because they took the Contenders champions, or a former Contenders championship team. So I guess they're a Division 2 team. So they took in the their entire roster, and I think I think the former Runaway team. That's what they were called. That's what that team used to be called.
What sports or what games are they playing?
Oh, it's Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But I guess they're expanding more because they said they won't be in their studio, California studio,
Yeah,
and stuff like
they
that.
also
That there
announced-
may be some away games.
yes,
so I
they
guess
did
we'll
announce
see.
that they will host weekend games in Dallas, Atlanta, and then and then stay in LA, but go to LA Live, the former Nokia Theater, I believe. So, so they'll be playing games in those. They'll be by and large neutral site games, but these are also going to be the home. The Nokia Theater, I think, is the home, will be the home ground for the Los Angeles Valiant. So LA will figure into the schedule at that point. Dallas, obviously, that they'll play that. That's the Dallas Fuels home ground. They'll be playing in front of their home fans, and Atlanta has an expansion team as well. So Atlanta will figure into the schedule when they play games there. And this will be throughout the season. It's just their first experiment with trying to play games in said cities, in the cities of their actual teams, the home cities of the actual teams. As I said, yeah, I mean, way back when we started, when we started the Six Talk era. I mentioned my own fascination with watching a little bit more esports, and then more, and it morphed into more of an interest in watching Overwatch, but more because of the production values and the way
Commentating too.
Huh?
The
commentators too, and it had more of a feel that probably could work more in tune for North American sports fans. The pace of Overwatch, if you're just a viewer, its pace probably works a little bit better for a North American viewer than it would.
It seems so
like if you tried to,
professional.
yeah,
And like real sports.
and then if you tried other games, anyway,
Well, when you have Blizzard behind you, Activision Blizzard, it definitely helps.
yeah. As I said, I guess it's just as a casual fan, I'll be keeping up, but that's what they're trying to look for, somebody who wouldn't like new fans anyway. Okay, I think we said too much. Okay, so here we go. It's the bullet segment. As to, once again, with the disclaimer, and this is a disclaimer that's always been said whenever we do bullets, whether it's here or any other real program, because this is not a real show. This is not a well-organized show. These are little things which may become bigger things depending on how much we give a damn about them, about these stories. And for all we know, one bullet may actually take up the entire segment. But we have a few, and I think we intend to go through all of them. And they're sort of tied together in many ways. So bullet number one. So item. Neon Genesis Evangelion. I mean, we want to avoid talking about it during talking about the streaming services, because this is just more of a licensing deal in and of itself. But
The news is Kara wants a boatload of money. They waited long enough, and they got their boatload of money, or close to it.
More or less.
More or less. Well, there's a lot of layers to this story. Shot. Well, after the news, word came out. Now, can somebody explain this to me? How we may end up seeing a new dub for this? Can somebody explain this, the story of how we could end up with a new dub?
I think it's just Netflix has done that for all their anime and stuff like that.
Even if it's been public.
Now, this is the
published.
This is the first one they've had where it's been previously released and already had a dub.
Oh, in other words, they do something in house.
Yeah, but they've done a lot of their dubs out of California, not out of it's the same people that have worked with Bang, Zoom, New Gen Pictures, and all that. But they're like weird names that I can't remember. But they're all in California. But it's like not surprising too, because we've heard about. Remember, this was licensed by ADV. This was one of their first titles. It was like 95. So a lot of those contracts were a lot different back then. They weren't as polished as they are now. So a lot of the times the dub would actually be retained by the licensing company, i.e. ADV. So there's that to factor in too. So even though Funimation was able to get them all back pretty much for the movies.
But by and large...
But there's all sorts of like things you can do, say whatever you want. But as we've heard, the voice actors are trying to petition to get their spots back. But they've also probably started the process so much further along. You know what I mean? Because Amanda Wynn Lee, who did Ray, said that she had talked to the dub director. So basically, they had had this in the works for a long time. And it's like they normally do. They announce it relatively close because they're saying spring 2019.
Well,
And it was just a teaser.
She said it's in good hands, right? So
Correct.
I can only assume as such.
Yep. And it's the series and the 2 movies since we're talking about. So End of
what's been
Rebirth
taken.
is in there.
Yeah, I mean, I the angle I have of it, and the first inkling I got was, for some strange reason, I received an email from Tiffany Grant, who played Asuka,
That was surprising when I heard that happened.
that she actually went out. First of all, I have no clue how. Like, I know, like, Tiffany Grant's visited Anime North, so maybe I put my name on the put my name on a mailing list.
She was at Anime North with her husband, Matt Greenfield, and he did the original direction for that because he did a lot of the original dubs for ADV and was prolific in the early 2000s.
Yes, so I guess I put my name on the mailing list when she was at that time. So or my own personal name, because there's no way it would have been our old email address, because that would have been tied to Comic Dens to the Comic Den domains. So so for some strange reason, I somehow ended up with this email from her talking about all this. So that's how I found out about this angle with me, who doesn't really keep up with this stuff. But I found it an interesting story. But it's not like I heard it was more technical, that like it was also partly technical that the remastering may do something too. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, like, I'm sure it'll be better than what ADV did. Like, they did a great job on that DVD remaster, remember, last decade and stuff like that.
the Platinums.
Yeah, the Platinums and stuff like that. And they did go back, I guess, and do a few things with probably the dub as well and things like that. But it should be in good hands. We'll see how it plays out for that.
Petition's still there. I guess we'll put a link to the
But a
petition.
lot of people,
But
there have been others, and I agree, like, it's been so long that probably a new dub, if you do it right, probably would be the better route.
and it's not unprecedented. I mean, when I guess the only other one that comes to mind is Akira. When Akira got picked up by Pioneer, or Geneon, or whatever you want to call them, the Streamline Pictures dub got scrapped, and they made a new dub. Johnny Young Bosch starred in that.
And then the good thing was, when it came to physical from Funimation, we got all those dubs, just like Discotek is done with a lot of their old stuff. So they're getting a lot of those dubs we haven't seen. And unfortunately,
and of course,
to tie it back to Ava for a second, we don't know what's going to happen, like if it'll have a physical release, because a lot of the Netflix stuff just haven't had physical releases. Like
It's
Knights
not
of
something-
Sidonia has gotten one.
it's not something you
like,
think of.
It
Yeah,
does,
it's
Low
happened,
Witch
but it's not really something
Academia
that comes
is
up.
a big one for them that they had a few years ago. That hasn't gotten a physical release, been licensed out. The same thing has happened with some of Amazon Prime stuff, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Like if they're going to sub-license through Netflix, or whether they're going to ask for another boatload of money, because I'm sure they looked at it. Everyone looked at it. It was just the price they wanted. And it ties into probably the other things that happened the decade before, that ADV had that continuous contract and they kept on going. But then you had the bad blood as they did the live action. Remember that? Like ADV said to Gainax and that.
the one
we'll
that
get,
never
we'll get the
happened.
Gainax and we'll get the live action Ava and all this stuff. But realistically, I don't think it was ever in the cards for them to somehow, like, they probably wanted big Hollywood and all this other stuff, but I don't think they had the resources to find those people. And then it just went to the courts, and then it just, the license, when ADV finally imploded along with everything else, it just went into the ether. So at least people will be able to see it.
Right into the abyss.
Yeah, at least people will be able to see it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The other redubs that come to mind are anything that Miyazaki related to Buena Vista.
Yep.
Because
And
that's
I'm
got
sure,
redone too.
Maybe they'll finally finish Evangelion now.
but yeah, Ava.
Oh, if anyone's interested, I do have the original DVDs.
Yeah, I have those too. And the
And
thing, the
I'm
reason
wondering
I
if I
keep
should
them,
keep them or
I
not.
would keep them because they have the French, they have the Spanish, and what was the other language? They had every language under the sun on those DVDs, so that's why I kept them.
Last time I checked, they went for about $70-$80 on eBay. If you have platinums,
Well, I have platinums too.
We'd have.
I had the original platinum singles release of Evangelion with the art box. I flipped that for like over $300.
I have.
Yeah,
I have
because
the,
it has all the extras.
I have
in
the
that
metal
because they
case. I have
put
the
a
metal
lot of
case
extras.
just for reference of that.
Yeah, they had a lot of the extras.
I have the metal case for that.
Ooh,
Nope.
the thin packs?
Yeah, the metal case.
How much do those go for?
Probably not as much.
Not as
yeah,
much.
I think the
but-
fin packs didn't have all the extras or something. I think that was a possibility
I
too.
think
Because
they may have stripped some of them. I don't remember, but no, the platinum still goes for like 100 something. Last time I checked, it's been a while since I looked into it. I have a what was it? I think I found a platinum thin pack at Nominoichi last year. I bought it just to flip.
Anime Roundtable at gmail.com if anyone's interested. Anime Roundtable at gmail.com. Or just check us up on Twitter. Hit us up on Twitter.
Well, I might actually watch it too.
That's the other part, right?
No, it's well, you know how I am. I need to watch it with someone. I don't want to watch it by myself. It's just not how I roll.
But given
true.
like
That's true,
its
actually.
place and stuff like that, and how it's built up over the years, I'm sure it'll get good viewing numbers from Netflix.
I'd imagine
And-
so.
and once
And
again-
it hasn't been out for so long that you have this new generation that hasn't really seen it.
On top of that, yes, but they know of its legendary.
Well, they know the
status,
movies and stuff like that,
and then they
so-
know, and obviously, its status within North American fandom goes without saying. Okay,
I think the dub. What was I gonna say? I wouldn't mind them redubbing it. At the same time,
there's a fascination with
Yeah.
it. I find a fascination. I don't know if it's watch the train wreck type fascination, but there's a fascination there.
I'd say let the old voice actors come back. I don't have any issue with that. I know not everyone liked that dub. I'd say give them a chance to redo it.
Like, I know they've done all this thing, but as I said, I think the train's already left the station, so to speak. And it like they had everything under lock and key, and then this was them just saying, hey, we got this big show for you coming in spring 2019, just like they do with their live action and other parts of Netflix.
I mean, the only other other instance of a redub that comes to mind and was a unique one was Murray Ajima when ADV got the rights to Macross.
And I remember watching that. I have the DVDs. That was a great set too. Like
Yeah,
that was the same
that was
time period
fascinating.
as Ava Platinum.
Yeah, that was fascinating. I mean, she played her in Japanese, and then they asked her to come back to play Minmay again in the English dub. And I thought that was an interesting little take.
Yeah,
on
that
it.
was Matt Greenfield as well.
That was really an interesting little side, like his footnote in Macross for Macross.
They've always
More-
had like weird things with dubs.
Yeah, like I think more so for this one, I would say the parallel is more 5 centimeters per second.
Yes,
and you
I
have,
was thinking of
I
that
still
too.
have the ADV DVD, and I'm sure that's worth tons of money because it has the ADV dub on it. And then when it went to Crunchyroll,
Crunchyroll/Bandai or something like that.
well, it was that, and then what was it? Discotech released the Blu-ray, the domestic one, and that one they ended up having to redub and used Bang Zoom. So
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
heard.
see.
so we
this
have
is-
not
this was at
seen.
a
So we
time
have.
that when I was
So
in-
the only
in
way
there.
to hear ADV's version of it is to have the original DVD.
which is around here. Sorry,
I think they didn't like that dub for whatever reason.
who?
Shinkai or-
Somebody on the Japanese side.
Okay,
But
somebody
it's
in
weird
on the comic
because
side.
what was it? Stephen Foster had done all the other Shinkai stuff for them. So that's an interesting take to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do think the ADV dub's a little better.
Yeah, like there's a more, I want to say more nuance is what I want to say is in there. Like, yeah, it's all correct and everything's there in the Bang Zoom, but there's more nuance and feeling, I think, in the ADV dub.
That's why I kept my DVD for that show.
For which?
For that dub.
Yeah, 5 centimeters per
I have
second.
5cm still here too. So
I remember I went to Chicago that year, and I think that all that crap just happened. So I was like searching for that DVD,
and you found it.
and I was lucky to find it at what's that chain that doesn't? I forgot. It's like some DVD chain in the States. I don't remember their name. But
Okay, cool. Which
but
means
yeah.
they're probably
was it
gone.
Suncoast? Was it Suncoast?
it was not
I think?
Suncoast. It was another
Probably
one.
means they're also gone.
There's so many other ones, but they're just dead in
They're
the water.
gone. All gone.
Well, Borders is still alive somehow.
It is?
Yeah, it's
Oh
still,
my God.
Somehow, it's like I'm talking about manga now, but it's still parallel.
Mo, you want to add something? Or should I just go to bullet number 2?
All good.
Item. Once again on the Netflix side, since we didn't want to bring it up in there in the longer discussion, Cowboy Bebop and the live action, Netflix buying the rights to this. This has been something that had been always in development hell, I guess, for lack of a better choice of words, for what, a decade, I'd say?
Yeah. And I guess it's the right time because, as we said, some of those anime studios have cozied up to Netflix because they're getting the money, and that's I want to say Bones, but not Bones.
I mean, we had this.
Sunrise?
Sunrise. Okay, Sunrise.
We had this-
Sunrise actually hasn't done something, so I guess I'm wrong. That's interesting.
We had this long discussion about, like, I mean, and it's not a big secret. Episode 5, we talked about live actions, and I mean, we're all I guess we welcome this news with a degree of skepticism. Once again, maybe with the want to watch the train wreck type thing.
Well, we saw it with the Death Note movies, so I guess.
Well, yes, but
But I don't think it's going to be that bad. But you never know. You never know.
Like this has my attention. Obviously, because we talked about Bleach and Bleach was watchable. Yep. Kenshin, I've always historically said, was watchable. The Kenshin live action, at least movie 1. We'll talk about movie 2 and 3 another time. We can talk about those 2 another time. That was watchable. Cowboy Bebop. Gonna
be interesting.
Could work.
Could
Depends.
work.
If you throw enough money at it, it'll work.
Yeah, like
is it a movie? Are we talking a
we
longer
don't really know
series?
what it is. If it's a series or a movie.
Obviously, there'll be.
We
a
don't know about the
reinterpretation.
budget, of course, which is a big with special effects and stuff like that, which they're going to need probably.
I thought it was a TV show.
So did I.
A 10-episode TV show.
Is it TV?
Wait, is that the plan for?
I
Bebop?
thought that was what I read. I could be mistaken.
We can double check that. I mean, it's just that I could say
Yep,
live action.
10 episode live action adaptation.
Okay, cool.
No cast has been. Oh,
Yes,
they're gonna start filming in April.
Wait. So you mean Keanu Reeves is not going to play Spike anymore?
And that leads to another part of this
How do you
story.
cast this?
Yes, and that's the next layer.
And I guess
Shot,
Sunrise
shot,
and
shot,
Japan
shot,
will
shot,
have
shot, shot.
will have their hand in it because I think they're under exclusive producers as well, Watanabe and Sunrise and that.
So I mean, is this a no-win situation,
Here's
or
the,
can it work?
Isn't that just a formality,
Like for the,
though?
Here's the casting description.
There is-
for each of the characters.
I think
'cause
there
they're,
is
like,
some
looking for
formality.
people.
Okay, let's read these. Where?
Casting description.
Send me the link to this later. I'm going to read these out loud. Nice phone, by the way. It's a nice phone. Okay. Of course, Pixels decide to put notches on them. Okay, so I'm going to read these verbatim from ScreenRant.com for the what will be the descriptions of each of the main characters, and which probably hints maybe the influence of the producers, where the influence is coming from. Okay, Spike Spiegel, an Asian or partly Asian man in his mid-20s to mid-30s, and must have athletic. I guess this is the casting call.
Pretty much. Yeah.
This sounds like the casting call.
Interesting.
Spike.
I mean, they're not. I'm hopeful that from what I can tell, they're not making the mistake of whitewashing it.
You're saying it's not going to be Ghost
See,
in the
that's-
Shell,
that's-
even though Ghost in
weren't
the
they
Shell,
all-
ironically,
But the
that
thing
one
is-
the producers from Japan liked. You heard that. It's
Weren't they?
like the
But
craziness.
aren't they all white in Cowboy Bebop?
No,
That's
they're-
the interesting part.
It's more
they don't
international, you know what I mean? So
That-
they
that's-
could go
that's-
any way. They could go any way.
That's
No,
part
Jet
of
looks
this-
pretty white to me.
That's
And
part
Spike.
and that's part of
And
the
Faye.
and this is part of the dilemma. This is part of the dilemma, the casting dilemma. Spike is young, handsome male lead with a body like Bruce Lee. I get which probably narrows down the acting pool already. I can probably think of a couple people who could fit that bill.
that guy from Crazy Rich Asians.
Entirely possible if he can learn a little
By
Wing Chun and
default.
Jeet Kune Do, sure.
By default.
The Blue Power Ranger? No, the Black Power Ranger in the new Power Rangers movie that came out.
There's plenty of possibilities. I was about to say Birth of the Dragon too, but I think that guy's
guy,
too
he was
old.
pretty good.
He was
Yeah.
even though the movie was terrible.
He was pretty good.
Well, there's a bunch of Asian actors that just don't get roles. They have to exist.
But okay, so that all said, English speaking or Japanese speaking. Let me
think-
think about that. I'll read the casting calls. Okay.
I think it's probably
Shot. Okay, well, let me read these casting calls and then think about that for a sec. Okay. Back to Spike. His carefree demeanor hides a seriously dangerous individual. Spike is prone to shoot first and improvise, unlike his more serious partner, Jet, but he gets the job done. Spike tries to hide his sensitive side, but is a sucker for a damsel in distress and is haunted by his past. Good description. I like that.
Yeah.
Faye Valentine, an Asian, or once again mixed heritage, woman in her early 20s to mid-30s, must have athletic ability. Faye is the female lead, an attractive bounty hunter with a sharp tongue. She's a survivor and will con anyone to get what she wants. Faye has no memory of her early life, including family or friends, so even though she'll never admit it, she likes working with the other members of the Bebop crew. Jet Black, an African American or partial African American in his mid-30s to early 50s. Wow, big range there. An ex-cop, Jet looks intimidating, but is a softy at heart. He's become fed up with the corrupt system. Sounds familiar. But he still catches criminals as a bounty hunter. While Jet believes in the law, he will always back up a friend. Occasionally, he will even relax and have fun. Radical Ed. Really? Radical Ed. That's the name they gave? Edward Wong Popolo Cherfursky III. Okay.
You still remember that? Wow.
What? The Edward Wong?
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Edward
It rolls
Wong
off the tongue, doesn't it?
Huh? Oh, that I would remember that type of, that I would remember the full name?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again because it sounds so cool to say. Edward Wong Popolo Cherfursky III. 14-year-old girl must have athletic ability and short stature. Ed is a 14-year-old computer genius and expert hacker whose talents are indispensable. She is extremely energetic with a childlike wonder and is eccentric, bordering on the bizarre. Vicious. Yay. A man in his mid-20s to mid-30s of any ethnicity with pale skin and white hair, Vicious is the merciless leader of the criminal organization known as the Syndicate and will kill anyone who gets in the way of his business without second thought. And Julia, woman in her mid-20s to mid-30s of any ethnicity. Julia is a sophisticated blonde damsel in distress that has a mysterious connection to Spike. She appears to him in visions and whispers to him about his past. The real Julia is the girlfriend of the merciless syndicate leader, Vicious.
What about
Ein? What about Ein?
It's not hard to cast the animals, I don't think.
Yeah, just make sure it obeys commands, I guess. He or she. Whatever the Welsh Corgi does. That sounds like the casting call. That does read like it's the casting call. So, which has us wondering, okay, so will Japanese be...
They're aiming to start filming in April, so hopefully they'll have some kind of big announcement in like March or something.
So there's hope now.
Okay, thanks for the link. So we'll put this link in the show notes. Really interesting though. That to have read the cast, it would essentially amount to the casting call, really. So that leads to another interesting question. Once again, ethnicities. Will speaking Japanese be a requirement here or not?
I don't see why it should.
Probably not.
Isn't it set in like space or something?
Yeah,
Yes, it
It's
is.
international, so I think likely
CU
they'll
space-
go for an
CU
English cast or maybe have some.
CU Space Cowboy. So
None of them were distinctly Japanese. Nope. And it's like they're just people in space, so it could be anybody really. It's not like it's set in Japan. So like if it was Akira, then okay, I can understand why people bitched about that.
Tetsuo.
Kaneda, but these were all like, I don't want to say racially ambiguous, but Ed was always racially ambiguous. And then what? The other three were pretty much white. So
we can say gender sometimes too about that.
yeah,
Right? We can say. I mean, it pains me to say that sometimes, but I mean, okay, Ed was played by a woman, always played by a woman. Okay, I get that.
We'll see what happens.
Do you think people will be upset about the whole thing with Ed being the way Ed is?
Like just the new name.
Yeah.
What's the name again? What was it? Radical Ed.
They may not even keep the radical in.
Yeah,
I mean,
as her name in that show. She may just be called Ed.
Just Ed again. Which,
who knows?
Yeah, it's just this is one, like, for all we talk about when we had that long conversation about live action. That live action about live action adaptations of Japanese anime and manga.
It's kind of funny when you say that, and the other one I'm thinking in my mind now, and they've been promoting it on screens, and just tears the heartstrings because the Big Eyes is Battle Angel Alita. Given that James Cameron said he was going to direct it, then he's not directing, he's just producing. And then you just see these eyes and it's like, oh my God.
You know, that was the one thing I could have let go. Because now it's just going to be known as the movie with the android with big eyes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I still hope it's good. I do want to watch it.
Yeah. So that's like
It's got the pedigree. It's just this one thing you see and you're like, holy shit. Like when you first see the trailer, you don't even think about it. And then when you see it, it's like, oh, it's this.
bingo.
I can see Yuki Tokishiro saying, nope, gotta keep those eyes. Keep them there.
So there's that piece of information. I mean, everything we said about live actions in the last episode, that's a convention kind of throw out here that has the potential to be safely tossed out here. Mm-hmm. That this is going to be like, sure, I'll watch it. And once again, with Netflix losing content with the Disney deal, mm-hmm. with Disney, I mean, it has to come up with its own, and that's interesting. This is interesting. Mm-hmm. As I said, could be for a train wreck. I don't know. It's going to happen, so I'll keep my subscription.
I will believe it,
even though
when I see it at my friend's house.
Yeah. Yes.
On his Netflix
and I
account.
forgot to mention this, and we forgot to mention this in the last segment because the last time we were kind of mentioning Netflix and anything. Netflix is upping their price. Will be upping their monthly subscriptions. So
got to pay for those shows somehow.
I guess. Yeah, I think at least $3 a month for the standard plan.
How much is it now?
$10. So it's like going to $12.99 or something. So that's that. I mean, for everything, for all the fragmentation happening, for all the fragmentation and all the issues.
Oh my God, twice. You said it twice.
Yeah.
Fragmentation.
For all the fragmentation, 3 times happening. I mean, and then Netflix upping their prices with the potential of losing key pieces of content, with all of this going different places.
And then the other compares that'll
And,
come later
like,
to the thing will probably be the same price. So if you want all this content, you're going to be playing just as much as the old cable packages. Maybe,
yes.
You know?
So is the competition good?
Wait, which Netflix plan do you have? The basic?
Not the basic, like the second tier, which
It's
is
the standard.
standard. Yeah.
Why not go for the Premium Ultra HD? It's the same price.
I don't have the displays to do it.
I was going to
you
say,
know.
I was like, I don't think most people have the 4K. It's like,
No, I have it open, and if you look, there's like 3 tiers, but the second and third tier are the same price.
Same price.
But you get like, I guess you get 4K display and stuff. You know.
Yeah, if you have the display to start, and the bandwidth.
I'm guessing probably once more 4K TVs and it's more out there, it's like it'll probably be merged into the others. It's just like how you see the PlayStation 4 Pro and then the Xbox One X and stuff like that. It's like that's what has my. But that's another thought to the whole. I want to avoid the shot words. Another thought to the whole Netflix thing now.
I still don't have an HD TV in the living room.
I mean, I still have this thing.
Wait, when you say you don't have an HD TV, what do you quantify as an HD TV?
Something a TV that has an HDMI slot.
Whoa, really?
There is one in the parents' room.
Okay.
Cool.
But the living room, no, because it still works.
What do you have there right now?
A CRT.
It's a big CRT Sony TV that we bought back in 2001.
When you say big, how big is big? 32 inches? 50
Half
inches?
the size of this table.
I'm guessing you could probably sell to someone for a good thing because you know how many gamers want their CRT experience for the retro games.
I need it for Double Dash.
Wow. Okay, so I guess that'll be a watch in and of itself.
Yeah.
Okay, bullet number 3, item. Fruits basket.
Yes.
I don't really know what to add to this because I can't say I know too much about this story.
Finally.
Okay, what do you want to say about it? Because
Finally.
like the cast has been like
it's
going
a
to be
reboot.
redone. It's a reboot, new cast. I know there's some
like full story and
and
all that.
they'll
so
be
it's
able to
like,
flesh out the entire story this time in some form.
So
And
much left out.
This sounds like, because speaking with some friends about this, they seemed kind of disappointed that the original cast isn't coming back. We talked a lot at length about Card Captor and its original cast coming back. Mm-hmm. But
the interesting thing is, I forget which one it was from the original cast, and they said they liked the casting. So it all depends. It's like
this is like
this is just a suspicion, but Natsuki Takaya, the creator of Fruits Basket, didn't like that first adaptation. Was that an Akitaro Daichi direction?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe
and-
so. Yeah.
So, because I think it's been publicly known that she didn't like that adaptation. So, she probably wants nothing to do. She doesn't want any association with that original series.
In any form.
That's just my guess.
Well,
Right
the
down to
way
the-
she
right down to
worded it in her like words, because they had words from the career, and that is she wanted, I guess, a fresh start. And you talk about all that stuff, so there could be some kernel of truth in that, talking about wanting a fresh start, fresh cast, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And not a continuation, just a full fresh reboot.
And it makes me wonder how much money the original cast would want. Because, there's...
Is money, like, do like the money issue, like, do you have a leg to stand on there? I mean, I get it that the much of that original cast is probably well established and all that stuff, but do they have that type of swing in these type of matters now? Still
makes you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can just see them thinking, you know what? We're just going to have a brand new show for a brand new set of fans. We're going to do it right. Maybe.
And it's probably, I guess, the right time, because they did re-release Fruits Basket in Japan and then here in North America under Yen Press in those omnibus things. So I'm guessing that was part of the reboot plan. So it's probably been in the works for a while.
Speaking of those omnibus packages, are you guys pro that or not pro that?
Well,
Like omnibus manga?
like those type of ones
Like
are the
re-releases.
ones that we want, because those ones, I believe, actually, no, those ones were soft cover, but they do have some really good ones hard cover as well. So it all depends.
It
Like-
depends on the trim.
Mhm.
Like
Like
the Card Captor Sakura omnibus editions, perfect size.
Yeah, like some of those Dark Horse ones, those sizes are fine. The lower ones aren't as good.
The Chobits one, what the hell were they thinking? That book is so fucking fat. You're going to break the spine in 20 seconds after you crack it open.
It's kind of funny because they lost Cardcaptor Sakura, Dark Horse did, because Kodansha is going to do the new editions, which they're doing new editions, I guess, in Japan as well, and that's what they're based off of. So that'll be interesting to see.
Might decide to sell my omnibus editions of the manga.
But I think they're good enough for what they are. Like, they did really good quality and leave it at that.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
I
But
still got to keep up.
But for Fruit Baskets, getting back to that, it's like, it was interesting how we had all the Japan stuff, and then we had the Funimation side say, "Oh yeah, we have this," kind of that shot at the bow to say, "Yeah, the funny crunchy thing is going to go through next season, probably the winter, but we do have those big shows still."
Couldn't get Evangelion, so we better get Fruits Basket now.
Well, it is an evergreen title for them, remember? So because they had the Blu-ray set of the original couple of years ago too. That one was supposedly pretty good. I never bought it.
I guess it's now a good time to refresh that franchise because
Fruits Basket does?
yeah, because the older the older that series gets, like the less and less people talk about it. It's overdue. It's a good series.
And they have done other series and stuff
It was
like
a fun
that.
watch. I will say that much, despite what...
And I'm sure she
Definitely.
doesn't mind the money because she hasn't made a good series since Fruits Basket.
Ooh. Murderer. Okay. Well, okay, so that's bullet number 3. What did I say what else did I want to add in terms of the bullets? Aside from before going into other stuff. Okay, so
The calendar.
you want to save the fan festival for the last for end?
I thought it was a part of the calendar.
Okay, so essentially it will be the end. Okay, so
Sorry, it was like I thought it was kind of old and new calendar sort of thing.
well, as I said, in the and once again, and I use this phrase, and in the interest of filling space, because it certainly has nothing to do with being relevant and topical. The stuff happened already over the last 2 months that I wish we had a chance to mention before they happened. So here's what some of the stuff that anime fans in Toronto missed if they didn't get a chance to go to it in the first place. November 29th, Neil mentioned he wanted to see this series called Food and Film. I think they'd be. It was at the Review Cinema here in Toronto. They'd be showing various movies, but then they do But before the movie, a local restaurant would be providing a snack.
Is this the one in Roncesvalles?
I believe so.
Yes.
Oh,
correct.
okay.
And on the docket on November 29th was Kiki's Delivery Service, and they had a local crepe restaurant, a local creperie, was involved and made, and they specialize in Japanese style crepes. So so everybody who went that day had a snack before the movie. That was for the Japanese. 2 days later, I believe on December 1st, they showed the dub. Kirsten Dunst, which I believe starred Kirsten Dunst.
And Phil Hartman, of course.
Yeah, Phil and
Man,
Phil Hartman.
I missed early 2000s Kirsten Dunst.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I think she had it back then, didn't she?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
December 6th, the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center showed Kurara. Remember I mentioned way back when Old Muhammad and Neil were here, I made a recommendation concerning Miss Hokusai. Mm-hmm. And then the whole fascination with Miss Hokusai, with Hokusai's daughter these days. So Miss Hokusai, the animated feature, the long-running manga that was tied to it. There was a book. There was a book about 5-6 years ago that was written by a Canadian about her. There's a take on that, and then NHK even did a live action made for TV movie based on her, called Kurara, and even NHK World showed it over 2 parts here on their platform. The Japanese Canadian Cultural Center back on December, was it? I'm trying to remember. December 6th, on Thursday, December 6th, showed the movie as well, which was free. Of course, donations are appreciated, although it's a JCCC. It's a really nice center. It's kind of a nice place to check out if you have the chance. And another excuse to have gone there would have been a few days before that, December 2nd, the Winter Festival, the Fuyu Matsuri, which happened there. And whenever they do these things, whenever the JCCC does these social type events, whether it's the Summer Festival, the Winter Festival, the Anime North Dance during
Atomic
Halloween.
Lollipop.
Huh? So, they're clearly trying to hook some of that hook people who would have done Anime North, who have had those interests. I'm pretty sure that's why Oomomo is close by too. So that was there. That happened on Sunday, December 2nd. I've been to the summer festivals, to summer festivals in the past. I mean, they tried a cosplay fashion show, and we talked about the Japan festival that happened in Mississauga back in the summer as well. So these type of things happen. Like the big difference between the one that happens in Mississauga and the one that happens in at the JCCC. The JCCC one has a more organic feel to it. And these type of things have been running for years, so it has a more folksy feel to it. Whereas whenever the one in Mississauga happens, that has a more commercial feel to it.
Yeah, I forget which one was in Young Dundas Square. It wasn't Japanese, but they have the one thing in that was more commercial feel to it. And had stalls and stuff like that.
It is worth mentioning, and this is mentioned en masse. Mississauga is a sister city to Korea City in Aichi Prefecture in Japan. So hence the cherry blossoms that you often see just across the street from Square One.
And Korea Park is very close by. Park. You just have to go across Burnham.
You just have to go across Burnham Thorpe, yes. Yep. And often cosplayers will do their photo shoots before Anime North there. When the cherry blossoms there bloom. So that's a miss. So that's one miss. Fan Expo, as everybody they always do something in November or December, just a small thing.
It's like a one-day thing, and then they do the small one in March break to get the kids and stuff like that.
Well, that's become a little bit. That's had some.
It's definitely bigger. It's kind of like a fan appreciation one for the one-day one. They do like end of November, beginning of December for Fan Expo.
Yeah, traditionally, if you've had the Fan Expo pass, you can get into this for free. come to us for free. Did you have you seen this in recent years? I've only been to
Nope.
one, but we're talking almost a decade ago.
Yeah, like
haven't,
it's
like,
so
during the run
it's so
in
commercialized.
6-7
and
years.
stuff.
Yeah, like I mean, how big is this now? That's my question.
Like I think it's still basically the same size. It's like the March Break one is kind of growing a bit more because they encompassed everything. It's not just anime, and then Fan Expo is just a Goliath among Goliaths and stuff
And
like
it's a
that. And it's
scary
interesting
thing.
because the anime portion it kind of grew because they had what was it some game shows and stuff like that, but it was probably like a group from Florida that specialized in doing game shows.
They're still
and
doing
different
those
things
at Fan
in-
Expo?
No, they did it this year. They brought it back because
Really?
we were doing it, and then one of our people was still doing it, but then they stopped because obviously you want the space for the people that bring in the money. So the big CTV shows, the big space panel shows, and all that stuff, and the video game ones too, probably.
Honestly, the game shows.
But I'm sure they were put in the back somewhere. I guarantee.
The game shows ended up being one of the only reasons why I would still go to Fan Expo.
I'm not sure. Like I know these
Considering
guys were
we were
from
the-
Florida, and so I'm not sure your mileage may vary because I remember, was it 2004? Remember, Mike, where we lost it the one year, and
And
I
they got-
forget where those fellows came from.
I think
I
they were
want to
from
say
like
New York State
I
or
was
something.
yeah,
like
I think
that.
Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo, so New York State. And it was interesting. They had some things that were more Americanized. Like you knew when they were saying Toonami and stuff like that, and people are shouting at them, "We don't have that here."
Yeah, and that's still like
interesting.
And just going back into our past, I mean, our group used to have the game show rights to the anime programming at Fan Expo. So, like,
But
it
over
goes way
time,
back.
as we know, the anime has become less and less. So
That's
it's still
another-
kind of there, but it's like
That's another, and of course, that's another story altogether.
It was fun competing in those shows, I won't lie.
yeah, no, we definitely made it fun.
We certainly tried.
But
I had fun
They
hosting.
wanted to be San Diego Comic Con North, and they are
And then
definitely that.
they're
You know
not
what I mean?
now, but yeah, I mean, and because of that void, great segue.
Not enough manga content. That's the issue
I mean,
for me.
there's a lot of like. I mean, Fan Expo is, I don't know. Like, this leads to a longer discussion, which is so does not fit this fit the bullet segment.
There's
It's
there's just no anime and manga content anymore. It's just not there on a consistent basis, and that's the only thing I cared about
But
because I've been phasing myself out of video game playing for the most part when I'm not with people.
Yeah, like most people were phasing out to like the one cheaper day, which would have been Thursday or Friday, and then most
That was
people
my
like
only
me have
visit.
basically said nope and haven't been for the last few years.
Yeah, like for me,
And the thing is, it's just the crowds too. Like it's just
It's
so
so
crowded.
bad.
So I feel so claustrophobic, and if at a few things I'm like, okay, I want to do this, I'd fight through it. But it's like nothing says, okay, I'm gonna fight through this crowd to go and see this or do this.
I remember when it jumped to. There was one year where it was still $50 or $60, and then it jumped to $79 for the weekend.
Is it
and then
120 or something?
It's like at least $120 now, and that was when I remember going on the Thursday, not knowing that it was going to be $120 for the weekend. So I only went that Thursday, bought a couple things, went to the dealer's room, played some Name That Too when you guys still ran it, had fun. $25 for 4 hours of entertainment. I was like, good enough for me. And then I didn't do a full weekend ever since. This was maybe back in 2009. I don't know.
wow, we're talking
so
yeah,
long,
like
long time ago.
I did a
well, I mean,
few during the
I
beginning.
stopped my associations doing that years before that. But the offshoots, the offshoots, and you guys were still there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my direct involvement ended long ago, long before that.
Yeah, but then we had offshoots of our offshoot, and then it just stopped entirely and stuff like that. But I know they're still doing some game shows over at Anime North and stuff
Yeah.
like that now. For
Are they?
That's part of our. Hey, this
one
is our
that,
legacy, dude. This is our
what was it?
legacy.
Remember
James.
the one where we did Unveiled and stuff like that? Anime.
Oh, it's when you relieve when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
show the
show
blocks
it, and then
one
you
by
have to
time.
guess. Yeah, anime. I forget the name now.
Yo,
It's terrible.
whoever runs Name That to an Anime North should stop doing it.
I
The
think
thing is, they've
do- I think
expanded
they-
to so many different game shows.
I think
so
it might
you
be the same
kinda-
guy who runs the Nomonoichi. So
I think I think it's him because
They have a
Okay.
hatred for you.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
Should I prepare myself for this? Yes, I
This was
should.
brought up. This was brought up in a very old episode of this podcast, but don't play the song for 10 seconds, stop, and then ask, okay, does anyone know what this is? No? Okay, we'll play it for 30 seconds. Just fucking play the song for 30 seconds. Why are you wasting time? Just play the damn song and let people figure it out. Maybe someone will figure it out right away, and that way you can move on and play some more songs.
So play the whole 2-minute song. Got it.
No, play the 20 or
Way
30
to go.
seconds.
Way to go.
Actually, there was one year where I guess they couldn't do it that year, so they got some other random guy to do it. He did a much better job.
What do you do?
Random
How do you
guy
do it?
on
How do you do
stream,
it? How do you
better
do it? How do
job.
you
Got
do
it.
it?
He actually had categories. So it's kind of like Jeopardy, where we had like each one had like 5 songs, and then the song would fit the category.
Okay.
That was a lot better.
That
But
sounds-
then
Well,
would
it gives you an
would he
idea,
still do
yeah.
the whole 30 seconds or
He
10
would still
seconds?
he'd play it for like 20, 30 seconds or until someone got it. Don't like but he didn't like stop it after 10 seconds. So do you
Wait,
guys know what this is?
So, I mean, why not just keep playing until someone gets it?
because
Suspense, I guess. I
because
don't
you could waste time playing it for 2 minutes and not knowing what it is, and then you just would have wasted time anyway.
Yeah.
know. Yeah, we've had some of those.
And these are like head-to-head competitions, right?
Well, yeah, they usually will get contestants from the audience.
Yeah, no, it was from the eyes. It just makes me think you might have remembered it back in the day. Remember Yama, Mike? And I think the one we had was Big O, remember? And we were there for, it felt way more than 30 seconds. And you're hearing Big O, and you guys are looking at us, and we're like, we don't know what it is. And it
can
was
remember
just
something,
yelling,
this
and
was
it's
so
just
long
yelling
ago.
Big O.
It
and
was
we
so long ago.
But then the year after, like the same guy came back and did the whole 10-second shit, and then I just walked out.
Did you slam the door behind you?
No, I'm not that rude.
Okay.
You still want us to be the official
Well.
podcast of Anime North, right? It's like you have tact.
All right. On the note of the void, of the anime void at Fan Expo, there's also this new convention, the International Fan Festival, which recently had a show in Osaka. But there's more to this, isn't there?
Yep. Well, you gave me the link, and I think the others had the link too, but I looked at the website and I'm like, this looks very, very familiar in the design. So I just went to the About Us page, and it's Anime Revo, the guys that do the Vancouver convention. They do it around the summer, and they do it at the main convention center in Vancouver. And so they're the ones actually a part of this. And so it should be.
Really?
Yeah, so that makes me more intrigued to go to it. It's interesting, as Mike said, they chose the Easter weekend in April. So you have that factored in. The question mark is a month away from Anime North. And the other question mark is probably going to be that, who knows, maybe they know people from the Metro Convention Center because they dealt with people at the Vancouver Convention Center. You never know. But it's interesting that they went all in downtown first, because sometimes that doesn't always work. We know Anime North has looked at the logistics, but they're like, it's just not cost effective for them.
This is going to take place at the convention center. So.
Yeah, the main convention center downtown Toronto by the CN Tower and stuff like
well,
that.
it's the same. It's the same space as much
Fan
as
Expo.
as
Now,
Fan Expo,
obviously,
much
they
of the same
won't have the
space.
whole building and stuff like that, but it's still going to cost them probably an arm and a leg to get in there. And the one I was talking to you about, a recent one that went in there, a fan-oriented one, was the ELGX, and that was by Enthusiast. They're based out of Toronto, and so that convention is all video games, esports. So they had all the big Smash Brothers players, probably had
That
the
was like
Overwatch
a month or
players.
so. That was like a
Yeah,
month or
but
so
they
ago.
had issues supposedly
Toronto
running their
Defiant.
events in the Toronto Convention Center because they have certain rules and regulations you have to go through for timing and all that stuff. And so it was a big jump, and they're probably gonna have to do a better job next year if they decide to go back, because the previous 2 or 3 years they were in the International Center and no one ever made those complaints.
I know. I think.
So it'll be interesting.
Overactive Media, the owners of the Overwatch team, are involved with that. Although that's another story altogether, I suppose. Potential for this, though.
But I think we'll see what they decide to charge. There's definitely potential from
looking at
the
that-
people behind it. Also, given the fact the first few guests, I think the first 4 or 5 guests, and they're all Japanese, and they're all from the Fate series, and I think they've all been
They're all
to their
voice actors.
Vancouver. Yeah, they're all voice actors. They've all been to the Vancouver convention, I think, as well. Some of them at some point, because it's basically all the main cast of the Fate Stay Night series and the movies and stuff like that.
Yes.
So you got Saber, you got Tosaka, Tosaka's Rin.
Yes.
You got it's pretty much all of them, which is pretty incredible. Because
Yep.
you think about that, and then you look at the other conventions we've had here, and we've always talked about we don't get the guests and stuff like that, and we're like, oh, is it because Toronto is so far away? It's and all this stuff. And then when we saw Anime Revo and saw the guests they got, it's like, okay, maybe it's because it's a better trip to go to the West Coast. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that they're going all out for those guests, and we'll have to see what other events. But based on what they've done before, it should hopefully go well.
Rin, Saber, Sakura, and Emiya. Yep.
Yeah, it's all the
their-
main cast, basically.
Sounds
main
interesting.
cast.
So
That
I think a
sounds-
lot of
so
people will go
sounds-
there just to get their special edition from Aniplex signed, since that just
Ugh.
Sounds interesting though. It did but
except for that part I just said, which made Kevin disgusted.
It
But-
is what it is for Aniplex.
But it sounds maybe.
But who knows? Maybe they have other things up their sleeve, because as we know, Fate Stay Night, the second movie, is coming out to Japan. It had to be delayed in that, so it's coming out next month in January. And then Aniplex said they're obviously going to bring it to the States and that. And then Canada was done a month later when they did the first movie. So instead of December, it was January for the first movie. So who knows? They might do a screening of the second movie just to draw some people in. That could draw some people in.
They better. Don't pull
Especially, you know what I mean? Since they're having the whole cast, you know what I mean? That would be a good tie-in.
Don't pull that bullshit where you what was it? Was it Kizumonogatari, that movie? I don't remember which Monogatari movie set that was. They aired the first one, the second one never came here, and then they played the third one too. What the hell?
There you go. So Easter weekend. That's Easter weekend.
Yeah, Easter weekend.
So now we can talk about an item that has yet to happen.
It's
And
I
we
am
don't
interested.
have price on it yet. They
Yeah,
say that
no prices.
obviously the tickets, I guess, are going to be out in the new year, and then we'll see how it goes. And
that's
then
right.
based on that, we might do one day, we might do 3, but we might lean more to 3 if the price is right, and if what we see gets even better. But it looks pretty promising so far.
And on that
Who knows?
note, on the note of tickets to come, Anime North's first pre-reg, the early bird pre-reg begins. I think it's January 5th. I'll double check that. But I know the announcement's been made on that, and it's and the weekend pass will be available for a limited number of people. First 100 for $50, I believe.
First 100?
Yeah,
gone
it's going to
in-
be a bloodbath. I mean.
Gone-
100?
or something to that effect. Gone in 60 seconds, probably.
Gone in 1 second.
You mean basically the bots will get it, and then...
Yeah.
Whereas Artist Alley will take less than a second to sell out.
Yeah. No Monoichi.
But yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be the same for them. It's they did the same for Anime Revo, I guess, where it's they have the pre-reg and stuff like that, a discount that. But it was interesting, you mentioned it briefly, but I didn't even realize they also had that Osaka convention as well. So that was an interesting one too, because I think they're more based in Vancouver and stuff like that.
So if it's the Anime Revo, guys, not to be confused with Anime Evolution.
Yeah,
but-
not Evolution, Revo.
Revolution.
And Revo was the more corporate one.
Because
as I
they
like
are
to say.
they
And
are
they're
for
down-
profit,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, corporate. So they're in downtown.
which means, oh, do I even dare say this?
They're probably going to charge for autographs. and
Who's
everything
going to
else.
listen? Seriously, who's going to listen?
Give it some time, and their Japanese guest. Oh, I know people in Guest Liaison, they might get pissed at me, but if they're for profit and they have the contacts, I can already see their Japanese guest list being better than Anime North's in the long run.
Well, we've already seen a part of
Well.
it, and that is probably just like they've done before for the Vancouver shows and stuff like that. And they've been very impressive, both on voice actors. I think they've gotten a few mangakas even, but they basically, and it's been year after year. So
Do not discount that happening.
I feel like Anime North has.
I think the thing is, Anime North will never go away. We'll all definitely still go back, and we'll still have the same amount of people, because it isn't really just about the guests and all this other thing. There's more components to it, It's about seeing your friends every year. They have a lot of the cultural things in there, not just the anime and the manga and stuff like that. And yeah, you could spend your whole time in the artist alley or the dealer's room, but there's just so much to do. It's a very much a community thing that I don't think would die unless
I'm sure Dixon Road would agree. Okay. So there's the bullets and the community calendar.
Well, we had the one extra one. Remember Asian Reel? Because remember I went there.
Okay, yeah. Let's bring that up because I know you saw Mirai for your birthday too.
I saw Mirai. That was in November and stuff like that. So
relevant.
But
Relevant.
Mirai, like
we've been around for a while.
But anyway, what was it?
Bring it up.
Hosoda, like, I think that one, after watching it, I think I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I think it actually is now the top one of the Hosoda because it was Wolf Children before that, and then Girl Who Left Through Time below that. But now I'd say that this one, Mirai, is basically on top. Like, it has the mix of A Girl Who Left Through Time and Wolf Children and stuff like that, and even like the Japanese and all that. Like it.
No, I'm not gonna. The thing is, I don't know how Hosoda works all that well.
It's interesting.
So.
Like it's about family. There is some time travel and stuff like that. It's interesting with the younger child and stuff like that, and how the story goes. The other thing that'll be interesting is the dub will be interesting too, because we've seen who's going to be in that, and I think it was Michael Cinder Nicholas from Navi Post is doing it, and they had like Crispin Freeman and a few other big ones from animation. They even had Daniel Dai Kim, who used to be on Hawaii Five-0.
Yes.
He's going to be the grandfather, and like when you see that character, like he's on a motorcycle, all this other stuff, I'm like, that is totally Daniel Dai Kim. I could totally see him playing that guy. Because the only other one he's done before that was for Daniel Dai Kim was Princess. It was the last one for Takahata.
Okay.
Princess.
Can't say I know.
I should know it because it was the last one they got for Academy Award nomination.
Okay.
Remember, because he was there in that. But now it's Gerald
Daniel Dai Kim. Like, people don't know how good this guy really is.
Like, he's a real, like,
he
is,
I think, really
Hawaii Five-0 and all the, like, it's terrible.
Very ambitious character. Sounds like a very ambitious actor.
And it's crazy that him and the other Canadian actor, Grace Kim, like, they tried, but maybe if they'd gone together, because they were great people on Hawaii Five-0, and it just, for whatever reason, they were made to part ways.
But cash rules everything around me. Get the money, dollar bill, y'all.
But anyway, there was other things there. Like there was Inuyashiki, the live action one, and I think they had the director there for that one. I didn't see that one. The one I did see, but I didn't see it there, and I got to give you the link, Mike, is Finding Big Country, which is this filmmaker. She was in Vancouver. She played basketball, went to the collegiate. Well, I think she was cut at the collegiate level, but then went into filmmaking, and it's her documentary trying to find Big Country Reeves.
Brian Reeves, the former star of the Vancouver Grizzlies.
And it was an interesting story of not just finding him and making him more relevant, because they went to the Vancouver, I guess, Sports Museum, whatever. They had everything on Canucks and all these other things. They had a tiny corner on the Grizzlies. Really? And her going to find him kind of got more things in there. So there was that. And there was her own personal journey through basketball, because she like went through and she was a smaller size. And then she finally, as she talked to Brian Reeves near the end, was saying it was that decision of, okay, which passion do I want to go for, basketball or filmmaking? Because she finally got cut and she had to make that tough choice. And that's a similar story to Brian Reeves, because he made his money, but then the injuries kicked in. Mm-hmm. So he had to make that tough choice too.
Yeah, and it sounds like, by all accounts, Brian, and you've told me this before, Brian Reeves seems very much at peace right now.
Yeah, no, he's very much at peace. He bought a cattle farm in Oklahoma and stuff like that.
Lives and life he's very well today.
Like he said, basketball gave him so much, and so he can't say anything bad about it. And compared to everyone else in the NBA now, I guess, which is drama, he's a no drama guy. Like, he's a very different character than even anyone in the 90s in the NBA, if you think about it.
Maybe as natural as they came.
Mm-hmm. Like, I forget, like they said, and it wasn't in the documentary, but she mentioned it, the filmmaker, because it was such a poignant moment, is his friend and him were walking along the pasture or whatever. and basically said to her, he said, like, we're walking here, and if you saw some random person, they wouldn't know who had made millions and multi-millions of dollars. Because they were basically dressed the same, and they had the same gait and same talk and everything. Like, he's very down to earth.
Yeah, you mentioned this, and I've heard of this, and there's been an article on Sportsnet with her. It has my curiosity, so yeah, link. Thank you.
Yeah, no. The other thing, funny enough, thinking about it, that is too bad that it hasn't been here for the last 5 years, is, do you guys remember, and it was after the Asian Film Reel Festival, the one animation festival in Waterloo, they used to have it. It was
Yes.
like Waterloo
yeah.
Animation Film Festival. And 5
Now
years
that's
ago,
old school.
5 years ago, it just disappeared. And no one knows what's happened. And I'd love to know what happened, because they did some good stuff.
That was a thing, too.
And that wasn't just anime.
In the day, that was the thing.
It wasn't just anime. It was like worldwide animation from France and Europe and other places, which is great.
The Waterloo animation film? Yeah.
Because I remember watching, like, that's
do
where
remember.
I watched
I
Wolf
do- I-
Children.
I never went to it, but I knew of it.
I watched the Berserk, like, all three. They had like a midnight run showing all three. I watched that. I watched Library War, which was the only place in North America I think they showed that movie for Production IG. And the other fun thing about that one was, obviously they did plays and stuff like that, but they had like an open, like a bar, so you could go get drinks and then bring it into the theater. And it was fun having just a drink, watching some animation, stuff like that. But the funnier thing was worrying, okay, I have to hold this beer bottle or whatever I'm holding. It's like, because they asked if you want a glass, and I said no, because like if you dropped it, you had no cup holders. That's how old this theater was. So like they joked about, the bartender was joking to me about how they had plays. And sometimes some of them were so good at keeping in character and doing that stuff, because sometimes someone would, and I never had it when I went to the films there, would drop their beer bottle, and it was like one of those slopes, so it goes clink, clink, clink all the way down, and it just echoes throughout the whole thing, of course.
That's great.
So think about that.
That might be awesome.
I do want to see the Mirai though.
Yeah,
I
well,
just- there's a lot of curiosity
it
behind
started to show up in U.S. theaters, limited run. Hopefully it'll be out next year in Canada. We know it has a different distributor behind it, because they sold all the rights. And since Hosoda's last film, basically they've sold all their rights at Cannes Film Festival, and they sold it to individual markets. And so Canada's its own separate market. So it's like mile something.
I know there's a Vancouver screening in the works, but
But they had the name
Yeah.
of the distributor before they showed the film, so they definitely got the rights
but
from that
yeah,
distributor
no,
for that film festival.
No,
I can tell you that.
No wider screening yet.
Well, as long as they don't make the mistake as they did for no, it's terrible. I forget the last Hosoda film. Oh,
Boy
The
and the
Boy and the
Beast?
Beast. And the reason why I say Boy and the Beast is, remember that distributor, they had like what, a 1 or a 2 day screen, and then they only had it like in Toronto and I want to say Vancouver, but they put it on the weekend of Anime North. So it's like anyone who would be your audience would be at Anime North. And Anime North, I guess, who knows what they thought, but they had Boy and the Beast there, and they had to take it off the docket. And I think it's because they thought, oh, we can just go to Funimation. Well, no, hold on so fast. You can't, because it was under a different Canadian distributor. And they were even the ones who released the Blu-ray DVD digital for Canada, which was kind of interesting seeing Funimation.
But
and
we've
all
seen
this
that type of stuff before.
So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said it was a mix between The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Wolf Children?
Yeah. So you had the time travel element and stuff like that, but you also had the family element from Wolf Children. But there is the good thing where I guess I didn't mind too much. Some people didn't like it in which one is Soda's idolization of the mother figure and stuff like that, and the idolization of his own mother. Like, it's more down to earth characters that maybe you could more relate to. Like, the mother isn't the be all end all. She has this nasty side to her and stuff like that.
So, because I love The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. Wonderful film. Wolf Children, my opinion has soured over the years on it, to be honest. Because I feel like it was not a very accurate portrayal of how mothers are in real life.
That's why I said what I said, because
Yeah.
I know some people thought like Hosoda went one way, but I think you'll have a better take of this one. It's not Hana all over again for the mother. And the father is doing a lot of the motherly task, because basically he has this new sister that comes into the mix. They're on the maternity leave. Then it's the mother who goes back to work, and the father is basically the one taking care of them. He's trying to run his architecture business from the house and take care of these two kids, one that's 4 and one that's a newly born baby girl. And he's just like, fuck, what do I do? He's in over his head in some scenes.
Interesting take. I'll probably want to see that. Mirai, yeah, that's been on the radar for some time.
But as I said, take a look but I think you will enjoy it more.
I think you can buy tickets for the new Dragon Ball Z movie as well.
Oh boy.
Brawly's back, boys.
Let's take one final break. We have I guess we have to be a little serious in the final segment. We'll do a little bit of people in memoriam, and we'll end it off next. It's the Six Talk Podcast Network. Well, welcome back. Like I said, this is lots still to talk about. We want, and hopefully, we think we have at least one more recording within us for 2018. We'll find out, I guess, in the next 2 weeks. But to the listeners out there, we do leave it to you guys. So if you have any questions, comments, or just plain hate mail, animeroundtable@gmail.com is our email address. We're on the Twitter @animeroundtable as well, and www.animeroundtable.com, which is never updated, but it's there, and we will at least put the latest episode there for the entire. You can find the entire archive of past episodes, and if you want just a complete raw archive, you can check us out on our SoundCloud feed, sixtalk.com, in the Drake stylization, of course. And some fun and some good news. We've been added to Spotify as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, we were registered, and we're now on Spotify, which means their vetting process has some serious issues. So check us out there while you can, as well as Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, or wherever you get them for your commuting enjoyment.
That's going to be a long commute for this episode.
Oh, for this episode, we're 2+ hours.
2-hour commute, man.
It'll probably be good for the next time the TTC breaks down on
Which will
you.
be
You mean
always.
Tuesday?
So, well, what's the best way? This is like the first time we've done a third segment for the in the new era, in our Six Talk era. Normally, we would have saved this for something for what we called back then final insults. This is the final segment. This is the closing. This is the closer. And I did want to get a little serious just for a moment, not like a little bit. It's been a month. They say bad news comes in threes. And within a space of less than a week, fandom lost 3 key people back in November. John Rogers, who was the head of the San Diego Comic-Con, led it since the 80s and turned it into, and was at the helm in turning into the behemoth that is now. He passed away after a long battle with cancer. Fred Patten, who, let me just quickly just note this. Fred Patten, who is a historian about on science fiction and fantasy culture, wrote a lot of books on that, but was also a historian when it came to anime and manga, and wrote a lot of the first definitive English texts in any academia form concerning anime and manga in North America, and is a big influence on people like Dave Merrill, who does Anime Hell,
Helen McCarthy,
and then
Jonathan. Oh, I forget his name.
Jonathan Clements.
Clements, yes, those ones are big.
Like they're big influence on these podcast. David Merrill, who does Anime Hell, podcasters like Daryl Surratt and the Anime World Order gang. Mm-hmm. Big influence on these guys. Passed away after a long illness, but and really, I won't say too much about. I won't eulogize them too much because already a lot has been written, and they knew more of these things better than I did. The last one, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Stan Lee. I know, for better or worse, but because obviously there were issues with his life as well. Stanley, I don't really need to say too much about. I think we can be overall I can be kind. That, as I said, not his life wasn't perfect, but well, is there anything you want to guys say add just before I may add my final word concerning at least Stan Lee? Any one of the three we just mentioned, any one of the three.
Huh. Well, I always did enjoy Spider-Man, so I felt a twinge of sadness when he passed away.
And with the new Spider-Man movie out this week,
Looks really good, to be honest.
It really looks really good.
Yeah, no, he led like a very interesting life, if you could ever say so. And the other thing is, he did so many things in his old age that you're like, wow. It's like some other people would be in a retirement home. He was like at Fan Expo, like people were telling me, just playing these different games, having fun, trying the new stuff, talking to people. Like, it was very interesting, to say the least. Obviously, in the past 2 years and stuff like that, things have been a little different. But he was powering through and doing things that I think some of us would love to do in our 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, that's true too. I mean, I could only dream. First of all, getting there for one thing, because at the rate I'm going,
and he
who
was
knows?
like, he didn't have a walker or cane or anything. He was just out there doing this stuff and looked very active and looked like he was enjoying every minute.
At least
of it.
until the end, right?
He also gave us Hero Man and Ultimo.
Mohammed, do you want to add something?
No,
Not really.
not really.
Not really, because you're more the Marvel guy than I am, right?
I mean, he died. That was like so long ago.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Okay, no real tributes here. I can't really add too much else. I will add one. No, I mean, like, generally speaking, there isn't much else to add. I can't really add too much else. Although there is one tribute I did want to bring up that stuck with me, and it's a personal that stuck out to me, and it's a personal Facebook post put up by an actor by the name of Yu Lu, whose name I'm sure you won't recognize, but he did have a cameo. He was in the same cameo scene as Stan Lee in Spider-Man Homecoming. He was the guy who was trying to get it into his car, but Spider-Man thought he was a robber trying to steal the car and stuck him into the thing. That's him. Yu Lu actually has a bit of a history with Fan Expo because he helped out at the All Night track, the All Night anime track back in the day there. But he's from New York, and so Yu Lu, we've met. I befriended him back then too. Good guy. He was pretty cool to deal with, and he put himself out there, because I distinctly remember him trying to sing the Macross theme song during the karaoke component of those all nights. Brave man in that sense. Yu Lu, he simply appeared at a loss for words in that Facebook post, which had me thinking it was one thing to be a fan, but it certainly was another to have worked with him, much less have been really close. And Yu Lu was, he worked with him. And it was, so, you just raise a glass to that. Anyway, like I said, this is, we think we have one more episode with us. One more recording of some sort with us, whether it's digest number 2, episode number 7, or somebody doing an On My Mind. There's your assignment before the end of the year, guys. Until then, though, it's late now. It's nightfall, and it is Saturday night, so we're gonna go out and enjoy it. You enjoy yours too. Good night from Toronto, and join us again for another edition of the Anime Roundtable on the Six Talk Podcast Network.